What's shaking, everybody? Ross Mandell here, coming to you from Delray Beach, Florida. It's a chilly day today, but the studio is smoking. I got a special treat for you all today. He's, I don't want to say he's a young man, but he's younger than me. Everybody's younger than me. Some people, they call him the dope man. Some people, they call him the hope man. He wrote a tremendous book. I'm reading it. I've been reading it. I'm like hooked. It's like a drug to me. I can't stop. He is Tim Ryan, the dope man. What's up, my brother?
Hey, Ross, thanks for having me, brother.
It's so great to see you, man.
First off, I got to let you know.
Please.
I have some teeth issues.
Okay.
I lost my 2 front teeth on New Year's Eve on my 5th wedding anniversary, but I knew I had to get them out, and I'm going in for a total mouth replacement on Monday. So any of your people that might watch this, occasionally they'll see I have no front teeth, and I don't care.
I just had all mine done, so don't worry about it because I understand. I really relate to that, bro. I've been there, and
it's years of soda pop, candy, alcohol, and drugs.
It's unbelievable, really. If I would have known what I know now, right, when you're growing up, I would have brushed my teeth 4 times a day, and I would have taken better care of myself.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, Ross.
Like,
Coulda, woulda,
we're talking
shoulda.
about alcohol. We're talking about drugs. We're talking about jail. We're talking about Hollywood. We're talking about supermodels. We're talking about money.
Yep.
I mean, Tim Ryan, you covered the gamut, soup to nuts, right?
Yeah, it's just some guy from the damn Midwest. You know, I was the curious kid, the adventurer, and I always wanted to make money.
All right, let's talk about you first because I want the audience to start to get to know you the way I have been. I just saw an interesting tattoo on your arm. It says dope.
Dope to so, this is a funny story. So my company's Dope to Hope. My motto is I take people from dope to hope, helping one addict at a time.
Dope to hope. I love it.
Dope to hope. So I've got that trademark. So I go and get Dope Hope tattooed on my arm. But the guy that did it, it looks like bone.
It does look like bone.
Looks like dope bone. So I'm going to go see your buddy Tommy about
Chuck.
Chuck.
Tommy works
I'm
there.
sorry about Chuck. I met Tommy about Chuck fixing.
And Chuck is a true artist.
fixing
Chuck
me up
O'Neill.
there.
Chuck, what's up, baby? Lake Worth, the tattoo shop. He a sober dude.
Great guy.
Well, he's a great guy and a very interesting guy himself. I tried to get him in that chair, but he's like, "Oh no. Not everybody can do this." I just want you to know, Tim. I mean, some people get tight in front of a camera, in front of an audience. You do not.
No, not at all. You know,
You shine.
Yeah, we'll get through my whole journey, but I'll get to it. When I walked out of prison the last time, first thing I did was put a huge post on social media, letting people know where I've been, what I've been. Nobody knew I was a heroin addict and everything I was struggling with. To hold myself accountable, knowing that, hey, I could go use, but I did that for a reason because I needed more accountability.
I'm going to say this to you, and I've never said this to anybody. I did the same exact thing.
There you go.
Same thing.
I was done.
I was on camera when they were cutting off my ankle monitor, just so you know. At the halfway. But Tim Ryan from the Midwest. Tell us about where'd you grow up? Where were you born? I mean, tell me the story.
Well, something's really interesting. I was born in, Cook County Hospital. My parents went out and bought 4 kids, and they adopted 3 alcoholics.
Whoa.
We're all adopted. Yeah, my mom and dad just couldn't have kids. And, you know, if you look back, I was born in 68, so they adopted me right away. But in the early 70s, my dad is working for a company you know very well by the name of E.F. Hutton. My dad,
goodness.
Yeah, my dad started.
Goodness, bro.
He went to Hutton because of their training program.
And that's the best training program.
Best training.
I came through that training program.
Exactly. When I was reading your profile, thank you, Ian, for connecting us up.
Yep. Shout out to Ian Bick. The
Bick.
man. Ian, what a special guy
Locked
he
In
is.
podcast. But my mom, my parents fell in love, married in 6 months. My dad used to drive the cruise boats in Lake Geneva, and my mom was 6 months away from getting married, met my dad. A year later, they were married. But anyhow, he worked at the Board of Trade. My mom co-founded a company called Market Day in 1974 in Hinsdale, which turned into a nationwide nonprofit where we'd bring...
Wow.
You could order food, and it was all high-end food, but the school made 10 or 15% profit, and this blew through the roof. But, we're Crystal Lake, Illinois, northern suburbs, about a half hour south of Lake Geneva. And I was a kid with learning disabilities, ADD, dyslexia, all that nonsense. At 56, I don't know what a verb, an adjective, a pronoun. I can throw all that shit out the window. I never comprehended it, but being on that lake, I loved fishing, sailing, canoeing, water skiing, ice skating, and my passion became water skiing. I became one of the top-ranked water skiers at that time. Barefoot water skiing was my specialty.
I find that unbelievable. I got to a point, I grew up, we had a boat.
Yeah.
We had it was a ski boat. It was only 75 horsepower.
Sure.
It was a 20-foot shark. It had a tri-hull, which is pretty stupid in my opinion, because we used to get whacked.
Getting dragged up behind that.
I finally, towards the end of my little run, I was able to, get up on one ski, and I could slalom pretty decently. And I thought I was pretty cool, like I was the man, right? And it took me a long time to get to one ski, I'll be honest. And then all of a sudden I heard guys like you that could ski barefoot.
Well, you know
what?
Barefoot. There was this guy, Mike Seipel, who was out of Brown Deer, Wisconsin, and he had won the world championship. So probably at 14, I started going to Mike's water ski school once this summer.
Oh, my
Then he
God.
moved it down to Florida, and ironically, he had one off of Hypalexo 30 years ago. I'd spend
Wow.
every Christmas, Lake Osborne.
Wow.
I would be down here every Christmas, every Easter, barefoot water skiing. And then at 21, I blew out my back and my career was over. But my wife and I are having dinner in Delray Beach 2 months ago. We walk into a restaurant, and I said, Jen, the guy's back's to me. I said, that's Mike Seipel, my old coach. She goes, how do you know? I said, I never forget. I know a figure. If I saw the back of you, I know it's Ross.
Wow.
I tap him on the shoulder, and he turns around and he goes, Tim Ryan, what are you doing here? I said, I live here, and it was yesterday. And we just chopped it up, but he retired from the sport. But yeah, it's so funny how it all brings you back full circle. But that was it, water skiing. But my best friend, Randy Demir, his dad was sergeant of police. He lived 8 houses down the lake, and Randy was a senior in high school, and I was a freshman. We both had blonde hair, blue eyes, 6'1". I'll tell you his social security number, his birth date, and his driver's license.
I just have to say one thing. A guy that looks at me on camera, basically 3 cameras, in a studio and says that he had dyslexia, ADD, ADHD, he's OCD, he's got learning disabilities, all that.
Oh, no, I was molested by a babysitter at 10 years old.
Well, you don't forget anything.
Yeah,
You recognize a guy just
Yep.
because you see his physique from behind.
Right.
So you have so many gifts, and he's married to a supermodel who's super hot and super incredible. So you've got some gifts, baby.
Yeah, all my buddies still bust my balls. They're like, TR, how did you land a supermodel? I'm like, that's all God. I had nothing to do with it.
ADHD, OCD, dyslexia, learning disabilities. And, I mean, you have so many gifts.
Yeah, but I squandered them because, Randy, at 14, the drinking age was 18 in Wisconsin. So at 14 years old, we're going to Lake Geneva getting hammered.
Well, let's
every
get back to
weekend.
the water skiing. So you're starting.
Yeah. So we're starting skiing,
out,
but it was Randy
anything,
and I.
hunting, fishing, lake.
Oh, yeah. But people.
And you're adopted.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
one of 4
Or
adopted.
my older brother's 2 years older than me. He's been in the financial space 30 years. There's me, and then my little brother and sister, Katie and Kevin, they're 2 years younger than me, and they're 3/4 Chippewa Indian. So I grew up with a lot of racism, and I learned to protect my brother and sister with my fists and my mouth because there was no Hispanics, there was no African Americans, it was Katie and Kevin. And you know what kind of words they were called due to their dark skin color.
Can't imagine.
So I dealt with a lot of that, and but things were different back. Dad was home. You had dinner at 6:30 every night. You did your chores on the weekend before you went out and played. But I did what I wanted. I tooted to my own horn, kind of being the middle kid. And once Katie and Kevin came along, they got all the attention, and I was left to my own devices, which I absolutely love. But Randy and I, that's when I really started drinking. But there was no consequences. At 15 years old, it's the first time I did cocaine.
Wow.
I'm at a party with, I'll call you bitches out, Pat Tassin and Brian Williams. We're at Jim Spielman's house. He's dead from a drug overdose. And Brian's older brother was a senior in high school, and we wanted to hang out with them. And he said, you guys want to do a line of cocaine? Yeah, here, put in $5. We each split a quarter gram. We each put in $5. And we were sleeping at Pat's house, and they said, hey, we're going back home. I said, I'll be there in a little bit. As soon as they left, I went up to Joel. I said, you got any more? He said, yeah, I got a half gram. I'll split it with you. You owe me $25 on Friday. So the first time I do coke, I'm getting it fronted to me. And that was it. I ran a pizza restaurant. I got on the work program in high school. I was out at 10:30. I'd go to the pizza shop, flip on the ovens, go home water ski all afternoon, get back to the pizza shop at 4, but every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, it was drinking, cocaine. I knew everyone, but I didn't let people get too close to me because the freaks, the jocks, I liked everybody. I got along with everyone, but I didn't want people to know how my life was starting to get out of control then with the cocaine and stuff. Then I had the opportunity, to go down to college in Louisiana, and I went down to Monroe, Louisiana. Me and my buddy Trayson had our backpacks packed, and we were moving to Hawaii. And I decided to go to college. And I went down to Monroe, Louisiana. They had the best intercollegiate water ski team in the country. People don't realize that.
Who would know that?
Drinking age was 18, last state to have 18. 3-to-1 girl to guys, I can hunt and fish. I said, Louisiana, let's go. So my mom and I flew down there. I couldn't wait for her ass to leave so I can get to the liquor store. And it was game on, but I never got on the water ski team because I was told I party too much and I'm a liability.
I understand all that.
But we got into finding a big ecstasy hookup in Houston. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is ecstasy was legal in the state of Texas up till 85. They sold it in bars. They used it for couples, counseling and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Then they made it illegal, but this was all pharmaceutical grade. So we found a
What do they call is MDA? Is it?
Yeah, MDMA.
MDMA,
yeah.
right.
But it was the pure stuff. Hell, I can remember being at Private Eye's bar tripping on X with Edwin Edgar, the governor of Louisiana. He was in there partying all the time. It was David Duke, the Klan guy, was the state rep down there. But Louisiana was the greatest thing for me. I pledged the Phi Beta Sigmas, and then I ended up dropping out, which is an all-black fraternity. I was the first white guy in the state of Louisiana to want to pledge.
Are you white?
Yeah, I'm white. As white as
asking,
they get.
I don't know,
But all the guys were from Chicago, and that's where I learned to start smoking cocaine with Skipper, freebasing cocaine in college. And I'm like, wow, this stuff's great. But we got into dealing X. We would go to Mississippi, pick up 10 grand. We'd charge that guy $7 a pill. Then we'd drive to Dallas or Houston, wherever the drug hookup was, and we'd come back with 10,000 pills because we're getting them for $1 a piece.
Right.
Cut him off. We had a bunch to sell, and it allowed me the opportunity to do more cocaine. And I really studied partyology and pain, but I didn't learn anything. And I ended up dropping out and back to Chicago and did some odd jobs. And remember, I was working at a place called Fretters, which sold stereo equipment, TVs, and all this crap. My dad's buddy at E.F. Hutt and his son worked there, so got me a job. And I got hooked up with this guy, Roger. So I can't be 20 years old. Roger's 40. He's my friend's uncle, and he had the cocaine hookup. So Roger and I started going to Chicago every other day, and we were buying ounces of cocaine from this Colombian lady. We'd actually go to the north side of Chicago, and we'd go to noon
Where
mass.
were you living at this time?
Out in Crystal Lake at my parents'.
So you finished school. You dropped out of school.
I dropped out, came back. Yeah, school wasn't for me. My mom was happy I got a C on my college report card. So, I mean, my grade point average was a 1.4. The ACT, a perfect score, was a 36. I got an 11. I took it 5 times. I just don't comprehend that stuff. Throw it all. I got to calculate.
Did you know you were adopted?
Oh, yeah. We all knew.
At what point in your life did you know?
As soon as I can remember. We had books on why I was adopted. When we were kids, I can remember our parents would read
your parents felt it was...
They wanted us to know. They didn't,
I mean, I think the people, the parents, people that do stuff like that, I'm amazed at how sort of unselfish they are.
I'm going to tell you, you're going to get me. My mom and dad are the greatest people in the fucking world, bar none. To put up with my nonsense, my brothers, my sisters, but their entire lives were dedicated to these 4 kids. My parents were at every football game, every soccer, whatever sport. My brother played all sorts. They were at everything, water ski tournaments. And I can remember coming home, 4th of July, 1985. We're standing on the pier, Rusty Beck and my buddy Randy Demir, and I see a red Mastercraft drive by. And I'm like, Mom, we need to get a boat like that. It goes around the lake one more time, and it's pulling into our pier. And it's my dad.
Oh, my God.
And he pulls up, and he takes out the keys, and he throws them at me, and he says, the boat's full. I'll never fill it again. If it breaks, you fix it. Go win some tournaments. And I remember watching him write a check for $13,000.
What a guy, huh?
Yeah. I mean, that's the and I'll never forget.
Are they alive if they passed?
Heck yeah, they're down in the Cudjoe Key, 20 miles from Key West. My dad's 85. My mom's 83. Living life. Absolutely.
You're close with them now.
I talk to my mom every day.
Isn't
every
that a
day.
beautiful thing?
Every
Oh, my
day. We'll
God.
be down there the 10th to the 15th. My brother and his wife are flying in from Arizona. We rent a nice Airbnb right next door. I'm not staying with my parents, but
No, I get that.
But no, they're
what a beautiful,
great people.
beautiful part of your story.
Yeah, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
You're so blessed.
Yeah,
You're so
I really
blessed.
am. Truly.
56 years old, yet both your parents. It's
Damn
great.
straight. Damn
Love that.
straight. So anyhow, where the hell we at?
Well, we were at Crystal Lake.
Crystal Lake. So yeah. So anyhow, I meet Roger, and Roger and I start going. We would go 85. No, this is 90.
Let me.
80,
now, how old are you at this time?
19, 20.
Oh, you're young still.
Oh yeah.
And you're fully into the drug scene.
Oh.
You're wheeling and dealing, right? It's
go-
your life, right? It's
Yeah.
your life. You
Oh,
weren't
yeah.
looking for jobs or all these kind of things.
I
right?
always worked. I still had a job, but we'd go to church, noon mass, and this Colombian lady would hand us a newspaper with 2 ounces of
What a
coke.
great place to make a deal.
Damn straight.
Who would suspect
And
that?
we'd sell 1 ounce because it paid for the other one. And
Correct.
then I started stealing checks from my mom's market day account from my brother, and I cashed them at my buddy's gas station that his dad owned. And thank God for my buddy Rick. He called my mom and said, your son's got a cocaine problem. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, Miss Ryan, he's got 3 checks he's cashed in the past week for $1,800 out of your checking account at my gas station. The week prior, I had opened a phone book and found a rehab called Parkside Lodge in Mundelein, Illinois.
You how old?
21 now. And I
Okay.
drove up there, and they were trying to run my parents' insurance. I sat in a group, but I had about $800 in me. I'm like, yeah, this ain't for me. I went on another week run, wrote some checks. And then at February of 1990, January, February, I checked myself into treatment.
1990.
1990.
I went in.
21
I
years
went in
old.
October of 90.
I'll be damned.
When I was 32. I was 33.
And I went in with the thought pattern, I just want to quit doing coke and figure out how to drink like a normal
That's
person.
what I
Yep.
did. I said I just want to go to a place where there was no open bar.
Exactly.
No dealers, limo
Yep.
drivers, hookers, etc. I just wanted a place where I could dry out and get my thoughts together.
And the crazy thing is, I'm sitting in the detox part, and they had a little room
Right.
that you could go chill and smoke cigarettes. And they go, we have a speaker. I said, I'm not listening to a speaker. And the speaker puts his head in the room. He goes, hey, TR, you want to come hear me? I'm like, Kirpius, what are you doing here? It was a buddy of mine from high school.
Wow,
That had been
wow.
2.5 years sober.
And you guys are in your 20s, early 20s?
That's 21 years old,
What
yeah.
a gift.
21. And I can remember my dad coming in to meet with me. And he's like, Tim, where did I go wrong as a parent? What? He goes, I'm running the country. I'm making billion-dollar mistakes on trades. All I'm worried about is what I did wrong. I said, Dad, you didn't do anything wrong. I said, you guys are the greatest parents in the world. Then he hooks me. He goes, oh, I know that. I'm like, shit, where's he going with this? My dad says, Tim, while you were in treatment, your mother and I got some help. That little cult called Al-Anon got to my mom and dad.
What? Wow.
Yeah. So my dad says,
Wow.
he said, you're welcome to come home once you get out of here, but the day you start drinking, don't let the door hit you or God split you, because I learned I didn't cause your disease, I can't cure it, and I can't control it. And he said, son, I'm not going to contribute to it either, because I have been. So I got out. I started going to the Crystal Lake Alano Club and going to meetings every day.
Did you?
Hell yeah. I started
21?
21. I walked into my mom. I wanted to start a business. So it was a great time back then, because my mom walks me into the First Street Bank, introduces me to her friend Terry. Says, he's the president. He says, what do you want to do? So I'm starting an asphalt seal coating business. I need 2 trucks. I can buy this guy's car. He goes, how much you need? I said, I don't know, 10 grand. He goes, okay, writes me a check, and I walked out 10 grand. So I bought 2 trucks, started Ryan Seal Coat Specialists, and me and my buddy Mike Frankenbush started walking on water, barefoot water ski school, which Mike still runs in Boca to this day.
Wow.
He moved it down. We still go, we foot on all the canals out here all the time.
So you're still skiing? Well,
Hell yeah.
Even with your back?
Absolutely. I'll go out on a boom on a 5-foot extensions, do a front run, do a backwards run, maybe go behind the boat, and I'll call it a day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I can still slay the dragon out there.
Wow.
All day long.
56 years old.
56.
I mean, you look good, bro.
I've got over 500 skydives. I'm an avid skydiver. And
I did it once.
I should do it twice.
I said I got enough. I have enough stress in my life.
So
I was stoned when I did it.
My dad was shooting his mouth off in 2000 when I started. He said, I like to go. Here you go. Happy Father's Day. He goes, what are you talking? So you're going to do tandem skydive. So I jumped out with him, and he's with the tandem instructor, and I land before my dad, and he comes down. So what'd you think? He goes, I think Rabbit's the greatest guy in the world. He goes, the guy's got piercings in his nose and in his lips. He's got purple hair. He doesn't wear shoes. He's the greatest guy in the world because he got me back on the ground.
Yeah.
But he said it was a great experience, but he'd never do it again.
That's how I felt.
I fell in love with it because it gave me just a freedom. But on the flip side, a bunch of my buddies have died. And Roger Nelson, I wish Roger was around. Roger owned Skydive Chicago. And he had started skydiving in the early 70s. And him and his brother Carl were called the Freak Brothers because they had long hair and smoked weed. So Roger got into flying planes. And in late 70s, a guy asked him to fly some bundles of weed and jump it into a house in Beverly Hills. And that's how they were delivering the weed, skydive it in. Next thing, he's got the biggest grow operation in Belize. And he said, Tim, we brought in the best quality weed you'd ever have. And in, I think, 86, Roger got out of the business. He had leased a skydiving plane, and the guys got busted smuggling coke, and they said, you need to look at Roger, and they ended up charging him under the RICO Act for tax evasion. Whoa. He got 10 years in the Fed joint. His one cellmate for 5 years was Jim Baker, the TV evaluator.
Yeah.
His other cellmate, you'd know, Mike Milliken, the junk bond trader.
Of course.
So Roger learned how to thump the Bible and trade options. So when he got out, he had some money put away. Opened Skydive Chicago, the biggest facility in the world. But this is going back to 98, right when the T1 lines were coming. He paid $250,000 to have the T1 line run from the main road a half mile to his hangar so they could sit up there and trade options all day.
Live.
And they were killing it, but he got killed in a skydiving accident.
Oh, my God.
But he just was one of the coolest people you would ever meet. He talks about the old days, and hell, when we get into my wife, I'll talk about Boston George, one of the biggest cocaine smugglers. He is a dear friend of mine. And
You know, I spent 112 months in the federal system, so
unbelievable.
One of my cellies was the El Chapo of Guatemala. He had a dozen planes, 1,500 guys in the jungles. I mean, it's a whole story.
Oh man,
I got so many things I could chat about. But today is your day.
Oh yeah, it's my day.
So now you're 21. You're in your 20s.
21, doing all the coke, going to rehab, get out.
Are you sober?
Oh yeah, I'm sober, and I went to.
You counted days. You
I went
chips.
Yeah, I guess. But I'm the guy that would put up my hand and say, I'm looking for a sponsor. Nobody pick on me. I'm like, yeah, I got away with it. See, I'm the guy that thought I could get sober with osmosis. I hang out with sober people. I'm going to stay sober.
Well, if you're not picking up, it's okay.
I was too young because then I started competing. And me and Frankenbush started competing in barefoot water skiing. And that summer, I won Illinois State, Michigan State, Wisconsin State, and I was slotted to win the Nationals. And at the Midwest Regionals, I fell doing a trick, and I blew out L4, L5, and S1 on my lower back. Career's over instantly. Get hooked up to Dr. Wu, and he gave me 300 Vicodin. I didn't like pills, so I went back to smoking weed. As soon as I started smoking weed, next day I'm drinking. Well, you get 6 drinks of me, I'm ordering up an ounce of cocaine.
Yeah, me too.
And within 3 months, my seal coat business I sold to my buddy. Frankenbush said, Tim, you're a liability. I'm taking the water ski school to Florida. You're not coming with. So I decided.
And your dad kicked you out of the house.
Yeah. Well, I had an apartment then, and I quit paying the bills there. And I packed up, moved to Austin, Texas with my buddy Trayson. And
about how old are you now?
I'm 21.
Maybe
22.
You
20 coming into 22.
All this.
Yeah. Oh, that's just the beginning.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm shocked.
So I moved down to Texas with Trayson, and I met Trayson at 14. His father was one of my dad's clients and had a house on the lake, the nicest house, Panteras, Ferraris, Porsches, you name it, Mr. Shields had it. And he had invented a machine right when the computers were coming out. You had an 8-peg or a 12-peg for the wires to come into the back of the computer, and he had this machine. You needed 10 feet long, 8 pegs long, cut it. Did great. So him and Trayson's mom had got divorced. Trayson lived with his mom. She got killed in a car wreck with him when he was 9, so he was raised by his grandparents.
Oh, my
His grandfather is one of the top gynecologists in the world. And so he was pretty well off, went to private schools, and went to University of Texas and was supposed to come into a ton of money when he turned 21. And his uncle spent it all in the oil fields, embezzled it all. So he ended up with like $100,000. He bought these 2 little houses. I moved down there with him. Kelly Willis, who's a recording artist, used to rent a room, and we get rent checks from MCA Records. And I was trying to stay sober. I was going to the bowling group and the 101 Club, and got a bug to go do some coke. And here's how brilliant I am. Trayson had good credit and all this, so me being his best friend, his only family, I steal his credit card. I go to Circuit City, and I fill out a credit app, and I put him as my co-signer. And the guy at Circuit City is like, where's your buddy Trayson? I'm like, he went outside. He's like, all right, well, you're approved for $1,500. I'm like, great. So I buy a $1,499 video camera. I get on my motorcycle, go right to the pawn shop, pawned it for $500. I went and bought Trayson a Harley-Davidson buck knife, and I went and smoked a bunch of crack. My thinking is, I gave that to Trayson for Christmas, thought I was the best friend in the world. But I'm thinking I'm going to get sober. I'm going to get a job. I'll get it out of the pawn shop, return it. Nobody will ever know. Well, I forgot they send you a bill in the mail. So right after New Year's, I met these sober guys marketing cable television door to door. So I started working with them, and I come home one night, and all my shit's packed on the front porch, and there's my best friend crying.
Oh, God.
TR, how could you do this to me? Blah, blah, blah. And get your shit and get out of here. I don't think we talked for probably 3-4 years. I flew in for work. I made amends with him, and about 5
years.
Made
amends. So
so
now you're talking about the 9th step.
Yeah,
we're going to get there.
We'll get there. But he came back
step.
into my life, and he's one of my ride or dies. And the interesting thing is, like my best friend in the world, Eric Kaluki, I've known since fourth grade. These guys have never walked away from me, ever. Good, bad, and I was a chaos agent, constantly in and out of county jails, prison. None of my true friends ever walked away from me. That's what a lot of people don't have today is true friends,
I get
loyal brothers. You understand it.
I have.
Yeah.
I have guys in my life 40, 50 years,
Yep.
literally.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And that's
So anyhow,
an amazing thing.
Yeah, I start selling cable television door to door, making a couple grand a week. Trayson has me arrested. I get arrested at a gas station, get hauled down to the Travis County Jail. And this is, 91 or something? I'm the only white guy on an all-black deck. Man, that didn't go well. I got my ass kicked a couple times. They made me sleep next to the shitter. I couldn't sleep in a bunk. I'm calling my mommy to bail me out.
It's county jail?
Yeah, Travis County Jail. And coincidentally, one of my childhood babysitters is now the state's attorney. So next thing, I'm out of jail. And I hightailed it out of Texas. We went and started marketing cable television in Michigan. I had a warrant out for 20 years. I was afraid to go back to Texas, but I ultimately ended up settling that and
A warrant for what?
blowing off all my court shit. I never went to court or anything.
Okay.
Trayson had me arrested for felony theft, and I hightailed
That was
it.
for the Circuit City thing? The 1,500?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it all ended up getting taken care of. But I went to Michigan, ran a project there. Then I got to go to Buffalo, New York, and really did well. And I had this guy, Frank, working for me. Frank Ungvery, rest his soul, he died from a heart attack. And Frank was divorced. Him and his wife got divorced. So I had to bring presents over to his kids. I met his ex-wife. We hightailed to Colorado for 6 months. And we'd go do projects, get 5,000 subscribers, leave. Then I go to California. And I had the opportunity to go back to Buffalo and start my own company.
Now,
So
this time you're drinking still? So using drugs?
not really. No, I'm trying to stay sober.
Okay.
Maybe smoking
Clean.
a little
Maybe
weed.
you're
Yeah.
trying to be clean.
Yeah. And I go back to New York, and I pull in, and I get in, and I get a hotel in Niagara Falls and by myself, so I go get a bottle of Captain Morgan. And I had Frank's ex-wife's phone number. So I called her, and I said, hey, this is Tim. You met me a year ago. I said, I'm in today. Why don't you come on over for dinner? Okay. I went over, and I never left. And I started my company, and within 6 months, I had 60 people working for me. We were profiting 30 to 40 grand a week. I made my first $1 million then.
What kind of business?
So I had cable companies, like in Buffalo, you had TCI Cable, Adelphia, and Jones Intercable, and we were working with Jones. So Jones was looking to sell. So we'd come in, they're paying me $100 a sale. I'd come knock on your door. Oh, you don't have cable television? For $5, we'll give you super basic. I'll give you HBO and Showtime for another $5. And Cinemax and the movie channel for another $5. So you give me $15, you get all this free for 30 days. Great. Everybody signed up. I get $100 a sale. And I'd pay my workers anywhere between $30 a sale to $65 based on how much they made.
Right.
So I'd have 50, 60 guys working for me doing 10,
and
15.
And you're getting paid $100 for each
yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So my problem, my next best friend became Primetime, my drug dealer that I would give $20,000 a month cash to and say, bring me an ounce of cocaine every day. And then me and Cynthia.
Every day?
Yeah, we were smoking coke, snorting. It was insane. It was totally out of control. And timeline, I probably buried that in a year and a half.
How old were you during this time?
23.
And you're living with Frank's ex-wife
in
Niagara
Cynthia.
Falls?
in Williamsville, New York. We had a beautiful house, and it was just a drug fest, a dark time. A lot of abuse, physical abuse, me and her. It was bad. Ironically, when I got into the treatment industry, 9 years ago, I found out she is running a sober recovery store here, and I walked in to make amends. And she saw me and said, Jesus Christ.
How nice is that?
She went back, must called her sponsor, came out. We sat down for a half hour, an hour. She said, you're the worst thing that ever happened to me. I said, I feel the same about you. We made amends, and it was good. And she ended up going through the damn treatment center I was working for.
My ex said that to me.
Yeah.
I saw her at a funeral after not seeing her for over 30 years. And I said, can I talk with you? She goes, of course. And I told her a little bit about my story. I said, I got sober. I did the 12 steps. She was a MSW, Master Social Worker. She had a very big private practice on Long Island. And I said, I managed to make amends to everybody except for you because I was too intimidated. I was too scared because I really loved her and all that. And I just could never bring myself. She was married to the head of HBO, MTV, the co-founders of MTV, general counsel. And I said, "Can I sit here? Can I make my amends to you?" It was at my cousin had just died, and she was very close with them, and through me, going back since we were kids. And she goes, yeah, I just want you to know you're the worst thing that ever happened to me. That same line.
Yep.
That same line.
I think we got a few things in common.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I felt like I got stabbed at first, but I understand.
Yeah. But, I learned a good lesson because once all that blew up, I came back.
But you're bringing all that cocaine in, and so poor Cynthia, was my mother's name, by the way, she's exposed to all that.
Oh, yeah. Well, she was doing it. We're smoking.
Right, but, one thing I learned about guys like us, we're doing it. We're doing the more than anybody.
Oh, yeah.
And other people are joining in. But it didn't occur to us that they're doing a little bit, or they're doing this, or they miss a day, or they're not. They're walking away. They're going to sleep. They're stopping. I keep going.
No, there is no stopping.
Not for me. That's what got me clean. I would probably be drinking and smoking every day to this day.
It's funny because things come back.
Cocaine made it. I realized I couldn't stop. I just could not.
I met a new guy, a white dude. I was he's, come on over. I got all sorts of coke. He's got a kilo sitting there, and he's like, "You ever done heroin?" I'm like, "No." You want to do something? I'm like, sure.
How old are you now?
22. This is still in Buffalo.
Oh, my God.
And I can remember it because I tell people that's really, I kind of forget about it. So a guy gets a rig and he bangs me up. I guess.
You did it? You didn't snort it? You just did it?
No, I shot it. He shot me up, and then I OD'd. And I woke up 2 days later in my bed at home and come to, and Cynthia's like, oh, Jesus Christ, you were almost dead. And I'm like, why didn't you take me to the hospital? Oh, we didn't want to get in trouble. So then I wake up and I'm pissed off.
Right.
So I called the guy and I said, well, give me some of this heroin. I want to try this. I didn't know you could snort it.
Yeah.
So I got Cynthia trying to shoot me up, and I didn't like it. I said, I'm done with this. This is stupid.
I didn't like heroin myself.
So anyhow, we end up blowing it up, burying all the money, and I come back to Illinois, move into mommy and daddy's.
You broke up with Cynthia.
Oh, yeah. I left
Packed
her.
your shit out.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, thank God.
What year was that? Do you remember? Roughly.
91, 92.
Okay.
So I come back to mommy and daddy's. I remember I kept all my receipts, and I go to my buddy's company, and I asked his accountant to do my books. And man, I owed the IRS $80,000. I was $250,000 in debt. Didn't offer and compromise with them, and
they're pretty reasonable. I hate to say it.
They really were. And
if you go to them, they're very reasonable. If they have to come find you, it's not so nice.
Right. So I had to find a job, and in the Crystal Lake Herald, double your income. So I call this guy, go interview. I go to his house, and I walk in his house, and in his basement. He's got 2 desks, and he's got a fucking suit on. I'm like, who the fuck goes to work in their own house and wears a suit? But I'll go with it. And then I notice on his desk his books. And he's got a big book, and he's got a new pair of glasses by Chuck C., which are both recovery books.
God sent you there.
So I know this guy's sober. So we're interviewing, and I said, so he's a headhunter, placing people in we were called data processing recruiters then. And I said, this is great. I'd like to start. And he said, I never said I'm hiring you. I said, Bob, are you sober? He goes, yeah, I'm 7 years. Why? I said, I saw a new pair of glasses by Chuck C. in the big book. I said, I'm sober too, 2 years. He goes, oh, you're hired. I wasn't 2 days. I wasn't sober at all.
You lied.
But I could talk the talk.
Yeah.
So I came in and popped a deal. Ted Bieberstein, a Sybase database analyst, I placed on day 29. The fee was $19,000. I made $9,000. I'm like, I can do this.
Really?
Oh yeah. And then
that kind of money.
Oh yeah. I remember 5 months in, I placed 5 people that month. I walked away with $50,000, $60,000 check. So I went and rented a house and started drinking again.
You're rolling.
And then Holly moved in, a girlfriend I knew from high school. We started dating. She moved in, but, I was drinking a lot. We got into it one night, and she was leaving the door, and I slammed the door. Her hand didn't get out in time.
Oh, my God, bro.
Broke all her fingers. Holly, amends again. I love you. I'm sorry I put you through that. But, so she moved out, and but I didn't realize it was the drinking causing this, and Bob pissed me off, and I went to work for one of our clients. Here's how I played the game. Pete Morrow was out of Boston with a company called C.W. Castell and Associates, and Pete was 60 at the time, and he flew out to open the Chicago branch. Well, we were the search firm, and we were placing 10 people a month there. We're making a lot of money with them. Pete calls up and says, I need a full-time recruiter. Tim, would you be interested? I'm like, oh, Bob wouldn't let me do that. And Bob's like, hey, Pete needs a recruiter. So, I fucking quit. He goes, what do you mean you quit? I said, I'm done. I don't want to work for you anymore. And I went home and I sat by my phone. And 6 hours later, Bob calls. He says, hey, Tim, would you be interested in interviewing with Pete down in Chicago? I'm like, yeah, I'll go talk to him. I'm like, yes, I knew it would work. I wanted the job in Chicago. So I go down and interview with Pete.
You're not going to Boston.
Fuck no. Pete hired me on the spot. We're off Cumberland Avenue in the 90. I got paid a $45,000 base salary, but they were paying me, I think, $3 or $4 per hire. They thought I was going to hire 2 to 3 people a month. I was hiring 30 to 40 people a month.
Right.
And next thing, I brought in my buddy Vic and Kevin O'Donnell and we built a machine. And
how old are you now?
25, 26. I'm making $500,000 a year. I would take my paychecks and go cash them at the currency exchange. $50,000, $80,000, $30,000.
Why?
So I could pay my drug dealer.
You wouldn't just go to the bank?
No, I didn't trust banks. I didn't like banks. I had a brand new custom Harley, a pearl white, brand new. It was an old cop bike. I had a custom Ski-Natique boat, a pearl white Jeep. I'd interview everyone at the Bennigan's restaurant. I'd interview you at noon, him at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I could drink all day. Abe would bring me an 8-ball or quarter-ounce cocaine by 1, 2 o'clock, and I'd just do that all night. And but every night, Ross, I'm with myself, by myself, crying to myself because I can't stop drinking and doing drugs. I got all the toys. I'm making a ton of money, and I'm the loneliest sap in the world. And everybody I'm hiring,
I know the feeling.
Has MBAs, PhDs, Cal Poly, Berkeley, Harvard, Yale, Brown Rice, MIT. I only hired the best of the best.
But you don't feel anything.
No. And I'm making more money than all of them, and I was the loneliest person in the world. And I came into work one day, and there's a new lady, a receptionist at the front desk, and she had a peach outfit on. So me and my smart-ass mouth, I'm like, hey, Peachy, how are you? She goes, who are you? I said, I'm Tim Ryan, Director of Recruiting. Who are you? She goes, I'm Shannon Hoban. She goes, you're the jerk that didn't want to hire me. I said, excuse me? She goes, do you know Bill Hennessy? I said, of course I do. She said, I'm Bill's sister-in-law. I gave you my resume. I said, you're the banker girl, aren't you? She said, yeah. I said, I don't like bankers. I never called you in for an interview. I apologize. I'll take you out for a drink. So that night, Vic and I, the other recruiter,
I already know what's coming because
take her to Bennigan's. We have a couple drinks, and she goes to the bathroom. Vic's like, I'm going to get this. I said, nah, dude, it's already in the bag. I got this. And I waited for her to come out of the bathroom. I gave her a kiss. I said, you're my new girlfriend. And we started dating, and 5 months later, she tells me she's pregnant. I'm like, oh, geez. And she had a little 3-year-old son, Nick. So I was hanging with Nick all the time and out on the boats and stuff. And
No marriage.
well, I got her pregnant, so I planned the wedding, and
Baby
that
mama.
never happened. I dragged her to the courthough and married her.
Okay, so you married her.
Yeah, we got married, and I adopted Nick.
How old were you now?
I was still 26.
So you're married now.
I
you
actually
have 2 kids, really, right?
Well,
'Cause
I adopted Nick. She's pregnant with Max. I quit my job at the consulting firm because the branch manager gets promoted. And Chris pulled me aside at an event, and he said, you guys make way more money than I do. And I'm the branch manager. And I said, I don't give a shit. We do a lot more than you. So he rubbed me the wrong way, so I told him to kick rocks and quit. Well, our honeymoon, we got married in December, right around our company's company party. So the company that I quit paid for us to go to the Kohler Lodge in Wisconsin, the only 5-star resort, so I wouldn't be at the company party trying to recruit everybody out of there.
I love it.
Yeah, so we get married and had Max, and 9 months after Max was born, she's pregnant with Tanner. 9 months after Tanner's born, she's pregnant with Abby. I mean, all I knew how to do was make babies. And then my wife realized she's living with a full-blown alcoholic and drug addict. And I was in our 16th.
You now have 4 kids.
Yeah. I didn't know how to
What's
be a
her
dad.
name? Peaches?
Shannon. I didn't know how to be a fucking dad. And I'm working and I'm an alcoholic and I'm partying and
As long as we're earning money, we think we're okay.
yeah, the stress of the kids, but I love
Right? Is that true?
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
As long as we're earning money.
we think everything's okay.
Right. That's our denial. Our ability to bring in money, I think.
And then on top of bringing in the money, being an alcoholic and a drug addict, because at the time I'm a cocaine head. And what had happened is
That's tough.
we had a really nice townhouse, and I'd been up on a couple 2-3 day benders. Shannon already put her hands up like,
Was she partying with you or no?
no.
So
She'd occasionally have a drink.
She's raising your children.
Oh, God, yeah. She did it all.
So you had 3 children of your own and Nick, who you adopted.
Nick. So I
you have 4
adopted Nick.
kids.
4 kids, yep. And I get up from being up for a few days, and Max, who's 14 months old, is crawling to my home office. So I pick him up, and I throw him against the wall. I'm only joking. I put him in
thank
his room.
God.
But people, when I do speaking events,
I got a little scared.
they're like,
right
why
there.
would you throw him against the wall? I'm like, it's only a joke. Relax. But I went and opened my office door, Ross, and there was rocks of cocaine all over the floor. Because I would just get a big rock and cry. That's how bad I'd get.
That's how I was on my end, too.
Yep,
I would just jam it in.
Yeah.
I want to make lines and
Yeah.
cut up. I had no patience for that shit.
If Max would have crawled and put one of those in
Yeah.
his mouth, it would have killed him.
Yeah.
So I start going back to the
Oh, my God.
12-step rooms, and they just opened the West Suburban Fellowship Club in Naperville.
How did you detox?
I didn't. Just quit. Detox
You're
came.
not taking pills with the
Nothing.
coke?
I never liked pills. Never Xanax. Never Klonopin. think I took
No Valium?
one Klonopin. Never got in. Me and my college buddy Darius. We got a script of Valiums once, and
But I mean, how'd you come off the blow? That's what I'm trying
I
to
would
say.
just stay up until
To me,
I
that
came
was
down.
hell.
Then I would.
The worst feeling in the
The
world
fucking
is
FBI coming through the
coming
windows.
down,
and-
though.
oh,
It's like
the paranoia.
the sadness, the gloom.
I could tell you every road, no bullshit. Go to Chicago and put a pin and go out 100 miles and make a way. I'll tell you every road because all I do is drive around and snort cocaine or smoke it. I used to drive around.
Because you had to get out of the house, right?
Yeah, I'd pull the car over because I thought my brother was hiding in the trunk of the car. I mean, that's how delusional.
But you couldn't go home because Peaches was there and the kids were there.
Yeah,
And
but
she's
I
not
did-
going to stand you
Yeah,
just sitting there snorting. She knew, though, or no?
No, I'd go into my home off. Oh, yeah, she
She knew.
totally knew.
You
But
can't
what
hide
does
that.
What does she do? I remember she, Max was a baby. We were at some festival in downtown Naperville. Of course, I got hammered, came home, and the dog shit on the carpet. So, of course, I'm blaming Nick, who's 5. And she said something, so I slapped her and I kicked her in the butt. Don't ever put your hand on a woman. But I was drunk, and that's my justification. I would never put my hands on a woman. But anyhow, I sleep naked, and I get woke up to 5 Naperville cops with guns to my head. And boy, they beat my fucking ass. They taught me a lesson. You wife beater. So I eventually get a hold of my wife. I'm like, what's up? Well, I told my sister, and she called the police and had you arrested. So I get out. My dumb ass, I go to court, and I'm like, no, I did it. Like, oh, give me probation. They're like, you need a lawyer. I'm like, no, I did it. It's fine. So I got probation. I had to write a 12-page book on how to prevent slip and falls for the elderly in the bathroom. Do my probation. I go to my final thing. All right, done. You're convicted. What do you mean I'm convicted? I have a domestic battery on my background? Well, of course you do. You didn't get a lawyer. I said, but I told you I did it. I thought I was getting probation, disappear. Oh, no, not with this. Now I can never own a firearm again. I was an avid hunter. So I don't know if that took me down more, but the cocaine and
Man.
once I almost killed my son, Max, I start going back to the rooms. And I get another sponsor and kind of work the steps. And I'm at a meeting one day, and a guy just like you, same physique and everything, always had cool tennis shoes on, Jim Gallery. And Jim and I start talking, and we meet Joel. Jim Gallery goes, your dad worked for Hutton? I said, yeah. He said, do you know Kathy Gallery? I said, sure, that's my dad's secretary for 25 years. He said, that's my sister. I said, what? Wow. He said, I'm a bonds trader down there. So Jimmy and I became best friends, and then we meet Joel. You can't make this shit up. So Joel is going to the 12-step rooms because he had OD'd on heroin with his wife and kid there, and he's trying to get sober. And about 2 weeks in, I said, so what do you do? And telling me he does graphic design. He said, I used to work for On Time Courier in Chicago as a bike messenger. I said, was Mike your manager? He goes, yeah. I said, off Randolph? He goes, how do you know about On Time Courier? I said, do you know how much cocaine I did at that building? He goes, how? I said, Darius Ledart. He goes, the redneck hillbilly from Louisiana with the red pickup truck? I said, that's Darius. He goes, how do you know Darius? I said, he is my best friend in college. He lived across the street from me. I said, when I came back, I dragged Darius with me. He worked at the Drake as a waiter, and then he worked at On Time Courier. But what they really were doing was a front running drugs all over Chicago.
I get that. I understand.
Judd Hirsch's son, Alex. Alex was tied in with them. He got popped off 3 times in Chicago. My other buddy was his roommate. They were just selling tons of weed and some crazy stuff I was involved in, but it was just fun, having fun. But
I don't think we even realized
right.
the
So
consequences and what we were really doing.
Yeah. So I'd make it 14 and a half months sober. And
that's a big deal, bro.
Yeah.
How old were you? What year was this?
Now I'm 28, maybe 29. This is probably
End of
98,
90s.
end of the 90s, 99. And about 3 weeks after meeting Joel, he asked me to take him to Chicago to move out of his apartment. Sure, I'm a people pleaser. I'll come help you. And as we get to his apartment downtown and I'm helping move him out, this guy pops out of the bedroom. Who are you? So I'm Tim. What are you doing here? I said, I'm helping Joel move out. I said, who are you? He goes, I'm Saba. I go, what are you doing? He goes, heroin. You want to do some? Sure. That quick.
14 months sober.
That quick.
Yeah, I get it.
What's one bag of heroin going to do? So
Not
I
too
snort
much.
one bag, and I'm like, son of a bitch, this is what I've been looking for. So I get Saba's number, and he's bringing me a couple bags. And about 2 weeks later goes by, and Joel calls, and he said, what's going on? I said, dude, I'm sick as a dog. I'm sitting outside in a lawn chair, freeze my ass off, and it's 90 degrees, and I'm puking. He goes, have you been doing heroin? Have you seen Sav? I said, yeah, your buddy comes every day, but he hasn't come in the past 2 days. He goes, I'll be at your house in a half an hour. And Joel comes. He says, snort this immediately, and I do. And I feel fine. He said, Tim, you're dope sick. I said, what's being dope sick? He said, when you don't have opiates, you've been doing them for over 7 days, you're going to become addicted.
Get sick.
So you know what my thinking is? I'll never run out of heroin.
Good thinking.
So I end-runned Sava to his dealer, which was Ray Rowan. Boss
Well, what
man.
happened to Saba?
Sava ultimately died from a drug overdose about 4 years ago.
But, I mean, he didn't see you for a couple of days. He was just out or he was
Hey,
busy?
fuck,
You
who
don't-
didn't want to drive out from the city or
I
whatever.
gotcha. Okay.
But I end-runned him to his dealer.
So it didn't occur to you that you were going through withdrawals? And
No clue. Didn't know.
Really?
I didn't know. I'd never done opiates. I never was a
okay.
pill popper. Even
And you're just snorting the heroin at this time?
just snorting it.
But later on, you're going to bang it, right?
Yeah. So I end-run him to his dealer, which was this guy, Ray Rowan, Boss Maniac. And Ray... I became thick and thief friends with him because of the amount of money I spent. But Ray was the third highest up with the Maniac Latin Disciple street gang out of Chicago. He was their enforcer, but he also worked for the Chicago Water Department as his front. Nobody knew Ray worked for the gangs. And I knew his wife, his 4 daughters, partied together, and we'd run out of this. So we started doing black tar heroin, and we figured out with secanols and how to cook it up and so you could snort it. You know who we were teaching how to do that? El Chapo's right-hand guy.
Wow.
Because that's who Ray was getting dope from in Chicago. And I remember this guy coming over to the house with about 8 guys with submachine guns, all muscle, and we're sitting down teaching him how to cook black tar heroin in a grinder and this with these pills to grind it up so you can snort it. And the guy gave us an ounce of black tar heroin for our services. But I rolled with some pretty dangerous people.
These are really
dangerous people.
I was in the federal detention center in Miami, and there was a chair. You know, you get every inmate gets a chair. It's like a crappy plastic type chair, but that's your chair. And mine said Latin Disciples on it.
Oh, there you go.
And I said, "What is this?" They said, "Bro,
don't mess with them.
That's a gang."
Yeah.
And I said, "Are you kidding me?" He says, "Yeah. I mean, you know, when you go inside the feds, the first thing they do is you take your clothes off and they inspect you to see what tattoos you might have,
sure.
what gang you're affiliated with, and they, you know, if they even suspect, they say, so you know, they start asking questions." They said, "You gang affiliated?" I said, "Well, I am Jewish." I said, "I'm a Jew. You know, accountants, lawyers, brokers.
Exactly.
You know, we come with briefcases and ties and we sue." They were hysterical. It was like
funny.
one of the things every time I went to a new place.
Sure.
You know, but first you're joking. They don't take it. They take it serious.
Well, you know, it's interesting too the way prison is. Like Illinois, it wasn't segregated. The blacks, the Mexicans, we all integrated together, but you knew if shit was going down, you partner up. But Ray and I got into some deep stuff, some things I won't even talk about because it could haunt me forever. But I can remember I kept getting I lose my license.
Which license?
I get my second DUI.
Driver's license.
Yeah, I lose my license for 3 years. I didn't drive. And a week before I'm going to get my license back, I buy a car, maybe a month. And my wife at the time, her family always went to Houghton Lake,
Michigan.
You
still with Peaches or no?
Yeah, Peaches and I were still together.
Okay.
We go to Houghton Lake, Michigan with all the kids and stuff. Well, I drove. And I drove back early because I need to get dope. And I get into Illinois, and they're redoing the highways, and I get discombobulated, and I'm going the wrong way on California Avenue, and I'm in Blue Island. And I get pulled over by the chief of police off-duty in his pickup truck for not using a turn signal. I'm in a pair of shorts, no shoes on, no shirt, open beer, car full of water ski gear and shit.
Is that wrong?
That's what I thought. So they arrest me and realize I'm not drunk, and well, you got $250? Yeah, here's my bond, whatever. They tow the car. I hop a cab to Ray's house and get some more heroin. So I remember my wife comes back a few days later, and she had to go pick up the car with her brother-in-law, and just all this chaos I caused everyone else.
Insanity.
Well, I kept driving, and because now I got to drive it on revoke, I'm going to lose my license for 2 more years. So I got a case of fuck
at least.
I'm going to keep driving. 2 weeks later, I get pulled over in Chicago. Here's my advice to the listeners. It goes from green to yellow to red in 2 seconds. In the suburbs, it's green, yellow, red, 5 seconds. So as soon as that bitch hits yellow in Chicago, hits your brakes. I go through the light, I get pulled over by Officer White. Now, I was a slick drug addict. I would wear a suit. I'd carry AA literature with me. And he pulls me over. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Sir, I work for Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm on a 12-step base call. I'm going to help somebody get sober." He goes, "Nobody works for Alcoholics Anonymous, you dumbass. It's a volunteer-based program." He said, "You're going to get dope. Get out of the car." And he searches me and writes me 2 tickets. He said,
"Tim." You're the one cop in the world that would know that.
He was sober.
Yeah.
And he says, "Tim, I'm going to give you 2 bits of advice." He said, "A, quit driving a car because they will put you in prison." And he said, "Go get some help for your drug problem because I know you got one." I said, "What am I supposed to do now?" He said, "I ain't writing you any more tickets. Get in your car, go home." So I did. That got me 30 days in Cook County Jail. I get another one 6 months.
That got you 30 days?
30 days in Cook County Jail. And you're in the minimum deck. I mean, there's 800 people in there.
And you're still with your wife?
Oh, yeah.
Well, she
can
take a lot of...
Oh, it even gets...
I mean, what patience she has.
6 months later, I got popped off in Plainfield, Illinois, so I get to spend 30 days in Will County Jail. And then I get pulled over one more time in Chicago in a different car in a different part of town by who?
Don't say White.
Officer White.
I can't believe it.
Comes up to the van, and he's like, "Man, you look familiar." I said, "Officer White, you got me 8 months ago." goes, I told you to quit driving. He said, I'll be back. And he comes back. He said, Tim, you got a warrant for your arrest. And he said, I can't let you go. This is your fourth. Yeah. This is a felony. So he takes me. And
you had no drugs on you?
No drugs.
Thank
no,
God.
I was smart about that. I'd always hid the cars under the car. I had a magnetic thing I could stick under the car. They were too dumb to look there. I'd put it pop the gas tank and put it in there. They'd never look there. But anyhow, I remember going to court on that when I got sentenced December 25th of 2008 to a year in prison. The judge says you can either do 6 months in Cook County, day for day. You're not getting any good time, so you give me 6 months, or take a year in prison. You'll be out in 61 days, but now you're a felon. I said, let's go. I'm a felon. He said, all right, Mr. Ryan, you are now a convicted felon. And I get...
This is 2008?
No, this is... Yeah, it's 2008.
Now, you're with
Shannon still.
Yeah, the whole time?
Yeah.
How old are your kids during these periods?
So during this, Nick is now, I think, 11. Max is 8. Yeah, 8, 7, and 6.
So now they know Daddy's not going to be around for a minute. And then I
let
want
me
to ask
get
you,
to that. It gets better.
But up until this point, you're providing, though, right?
Oh, totally. Oh, I still made $200,000, $400,000 a year.
Right.
But half of it went to drugs and alcohol. The bills were paid.
The wife saw money in the checking account.
Yeah.
Bills were covered. She was able to make a little bit of a life for the kids, right?
Oh, the kids had a good life. My parents lived on a lake. We took 2 vacations every year. We still... I was a Cub Scout Packmaster for 10 years.
I mean, to the world...
I ran 35 Cub Scout dens for 10 years, shooting heroin every fucking day. Every day. I did.
To the world looking in,
nobody knew.
Tim Ryan's a good guy, right? She's you got to understand,
once I started doing heroin, I quit drinking.
Naturally.
I was just doing the heroin.
You sound now you sound like a real heroin addict.
Well, what had happened is...
It's very funny.
Well, you're going to sidetrack me.
Why would I drink?
Well, what had happened is I'm 32, and I'm hardcore heroin and drinking.
You banging it now?
Probably. Well, I'll get to that. So I'm really dope sick, so I knew how to go to the hospital and get meds. So I go to the hospital, my back's out, and we got to draw blood. Next thing they go, we got to take you to ICU. So they rush me and jam me up with morphine. I'm like, fuck, this is great. And the doctor comes in, he says, how much alcohol do you... I'm 32. He goes, how much alcohol do you drink? So I drank some vodka. He said, I'm not bullshitting with you. How much do you drink a day? So I don't know, a liter or 2? He said, you keep drinking the way you're drinking, you will be dead in 2 years. You have pancreatitis, and 30 to 40% of your pancreas is dead right now. You will not live without a pancreas.
From
alcoholism.
From heroin?
No, from booze. That's how much I was drinking. So I said, I'll just quit drinking and just start doing more heroin.
Naturally. It's
very
smart thinking.
But, I go to prison. I do 64 days, get released, Southern Illinois, come back. My parents picked me up on the way back from their Florida ventures and go home and start another executive search firm. Made a bank load of money, and as soon as I started making money, I called Ray up to see how he's doing. He said his wife had died, BB, who was a bad heroin addict. And I said, I'll come visit you. So I go visit Ray, and next thing he's got 10 heroin syringes, and I start going back to dope. And then Ray ended up dying, and we found out he killed himself. He couldn't handle living without his wife and ate 100 pills and killed himself. So I started dealing with Flacco, his cousin, and things started getting bad for me. 2009, I was really deep. I kept ODing, numerous ODs.
Tell the audience, what does ODing mean?
Overdosing.
What does it mean to you?
Well, to me, I've overdosed 8 times. I've been clinically dead 3.
So when you're taking a shot.
Yep, you take a shot of dope. Well, here, let me tell you what happened. So we'll jump to December 16th of 2010. I'm really bad in addiction. I'm still working, but I was a headhunter. So you're making $1 million a year. I place you. I get 25% of your salary. So I'm getting $250,000 fee. Right. So that's just the math. I place someone at $100,000. I make $25,000.
Right.
Because people can't understand. Well, how did you work and make money? How'd you have an office in the Wrigley Building? Because I could go place an Oracle database analyst at $200,000. I just put 50 G's in my pocket. Right. I'm good for a couple months. Here's $20,000 for bills. Here's $30,000 for me to party on.
Right.
That's just how I thought. I'll tell you every Starbucks bathroom within a mile of Union Station in Chicago. Every one. because that's where I shot dope every day. I'll show you where the homeless live because I ran out of dope one day. I had an office in the Wrigley building. Here's how my day would look, Ross. I'd get up at 4:30. I'd drink coffee and vodka. I'd make a rig of dope.
Coffee and vodka
every morning.
Oh, so you're still drinking?
Oh, well, what had happened was December 16th of 2010, I drove one more time. My wife was taking a shower. I'm getting dope sick. I'm like, I'm going to sneak the van out. So I backed the van out, and I'm driving to Chicago, and she's calling me.
Oh, my God.
And I remember she goes, Tim, whatever you're doing, I know you're going to, please turn the van around. Please come home. Please, I love you. I love you. I just turned the phone off.
This is before Uber.
Yeah.
Uber would have been very handy in those
Totally.
days, right?
So I go there, and Ray's already killed himself. Flacco's got a kilo of coke. And he said, Tim, this is pure. You got to be careful. So I snort a little and buy what I'm buying, and I leave.
No heroin.
No, it's all heroin. That's what he had a kilo of heroin.
Of heroin. I think
Yeah, I'm sorry. Kilo of heroin. So I snort a little, and I buy 30 bags or whatever, however he sells it, and probably 3 grams, 4 grams. And I pull into a McDonald's off of Grand Avenue in Cicero. And I remember it like yesterday. I shoot up.
In the bathroom?
No, I'm in my van,
in the van,
under the light in the parking lot, so I can see.
Really.
So I shoot up and all that. I sit there and I put my stuff behind the passenger seat. And I sat there for about 2 minutes. I'm like, fuck, I feel good. I start because I want to make sure I don't OD. If I OD, I'd rather OD in the car than hurt someone.
And not while you're driving.
So I wait 2-3 minutes and I'm fine. I start driving. And I'm going under a viaduct, and it's like I'm looking through a kaleidoscope.
Oh, boy.
And next thing I remember, I'm being wheeled on a gurney into West
You're
Suburban
unconscious.
Hospital.
Right.
I was dead on the scene.
Wow. You crashed the van.
Crashed the van. But I guess the guy behind me was a tow truck driver, and he had run up the van, and I guess I had told him, I'm in trouble. Tow the cops as soon as they tow the car as soon as they take me. Don't let the cops get it. And the guy did.
Wow.
And somehow my wife got a hold of him like 5 days later. So they're wheeling me into West Suburban Hospital that my friend's dad is the CEO of on the west side of Chicago. My friend's a surgeon there. I'm blind as a bat without my glasses on. And the nurse is running with me, and she goes, are you Tim Ryan? Are you Tim Ryan from Crystal Lake, Illinois? Are you the water skier? I said, yes. She said, Tim, I was a senior in high school, and you were a freshman. I know you. She said, you're in a lot of trouble. You need to get your shit together. Now, they got me in back, and I got one of the cops telling me I killed 2 people. So I'm freaking out. I'm in panic. I hit cars. I don't know what happened. I overdosed. This cop's telling me I just killed 2 people. So I remember a nurse coming in and saying, we need to get blood and urine. And she walked out, and I said, I don't have any insurance. Take me. And the cops did because I tried to take off and run, and they handcuffed me. So they take me to the holding substation, and the other officers got me in a room, and he unhandcuffs me. He goes, man, you want a cigarette? I said, I'd love one. And he said, look, I need to apologize about my partner. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you didn't kill anyone.
Oh, my God.
I said, thank God. But he said, my partner's brother died from an overdose about 6 months ago, and he doesn't like you people. I said, what do you mean, you people? He said, well, you junkies, you drug addicts like you. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So I go to Cook County Jail, and 5 days. My wife won't pick up the phone. My mom won't pick up the phone. Then my mom finally picks it up. I think she had to put up $50,000 to get me bailed out because it's my 3rd DUI aggravated, my 5th driving on revoke, and they found the spoon and syringe. So I get charged with. I got charged with possession of drugs, 0.1% of 1 gram of heroin.
But they didn't find the 30 bags.
Yeah, never found those. So it gets better. So my mom puts up the money. I get bailed out. I think December 23rd. My wife's sitting outside, been waiting 10 hours for me to get out of Cook County Jail. We drive home, not a word said. Pull into the garage, walk in. To the left is my home office. And we go in there. And I said, man, did you happen to go to the van and get my glasses? She said, oh, yeah, I went to the van. She goes, you do know all the kids' Christmas presents were hidden in the back, and they're almost all gone. And I don't have money to buy them new ones. And she goes, your coat's in the closet that was in the van. Your glasses are on your desk. And she turns to walk away and had then told me all the Christmas presents. She's like, great job, Father of the Year. I'm like, shit. As soon as she went up to bed, I went to my coat, opened my pocket. There was all the heroin the cops never found. And I went right back shooting dope. Christmas morning, I got up. Kids opened what they had, and I hopped a cab to Chicago to get more dope. So I lived to use to live. It's not that I didn't want to be with my kids. I needed to have the dope. I couldn't be sick. And it was just so fucked up. Man, it was a dark time. And then that Monday I got, went and retained, interviewed lawyers, went and retained the best lawyer. I left my search firm, went to work for the best search firm in Chicago, high-end place, making a ton of money, but I'm still doing heroin and working, and met my buddy Bob Applequist there, and Bob and I were machines. And I mean, we were making, $50,000 a week each. And Hudson's Bar was next door, so we'd be out there at 10:30 drinking vodka, shooting tequila, ordering heroin. He's ordering.
And you're still married?
Still married. Totally
because
insane.
the money's coming in, the bills are paid.
Yeah, but I'm fighting this case now. Now shit's getting serious, and I know in my mind I'm going back to prison. It's just what I shouldn't have done. I fought it for 21 months, trying to drag it as long. I should have just copped right away. Let's go. Right. But I didn't.
You were making money the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
I
was making good money, too.
And you never know what can happen.
No.
So in our minds.
I almost got popped off again because my dumb ass, I'd shut down.
You're out on bail, really, right?
Yeah. And I had Wabo recruiting. I shut that down, and I go work for Roy Tolman and Associates, where I met Applequist. And one of my old offices, there's a currency exchange. And I knew the guy. So I go in, I write him a hot check for, $3,000. Cashes it. I go in the next day, write him another hot check for $3,000, give him some tickets to the Cubs or whatever. And I'm at work one day with Bob, and the secretary comes out and says, "Tim, you got to come out here." The post office inspector general.
Oh, my God.
So this guy takes me outside, and he says, "Hey, look, man, I don't give a fuck about you, your problems. Bottom line is you're not that smart." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, you wrote 2 checks at this currency exchange, and you wrote them on a closed account. I can really nail you for that one. If you would have had the account open and had no money, I wouldn't be standing here. But this is serious fraud, and you will be charged with 5 felonies in the next 24 hours if I don't have that $6,000. I said, "Be here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., and I'll have your $6,000. And he said, "Okay, I'll be here." And I walked into my boss's office, said, "Ely, I'm in trouble. I need $6,000. He goes, "Here's a check for 10. I went and cashed it, and the guy showed up the next day, and I said, "Here's your $6,000.
I get it, bro.
That man, when I got out of prison, so I'm working, Bob and I are working, one of your crazy. Here's how Tim Ryan operated. Bob and I are making money, partying. I'm going to court every month, and it's about maybe a month before I'm going to get sentenced. And Bob and I went on a 10:30 drinking binge, and by 1, I'm in a full blackout. And we had a big bullpen with about 20 desks. And this lady worked next to me. And I guess I came back and she pissed me off. And next thing, my clothes are off and my junk is in her face, literally. Bob's bald. I went and put my junk on his head. And I jumped on the desk and started dancing asshole naked.
In front of all these people?
In front of the whole office. The owner, everyone. I didn't give a fuck.
Well, hold on. What were you on at the time?
Booze and tequila and heroin. Lots of tequila.
Yeah,
bad.
Tequila can do those kind of things, but you're really an alcoholic.
Oh, severe alcoholic.
Blacking out. There's a blackout.
Yeah, shakes, everything.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I remember leaving the office because my buddy Kevin met me, and we went and did a bunch of heroin. But the next day, I remember waking.
Probably not eating.
No, oh, God, I weighed 100. This wasn't close. I went to prison a month later, and I weighed 158 pounds. I'm 6'1". I'm 200 right now, but
right.
I haven't weighed 170 since I was a freshman in high school. When I went to prison, I weighed 158. But, yeah, I remember Elia calling him the next day and apologizing. He goes, "Tim, apologize." And he said, "Dude, I'm getting lawsuits out of this. You really put me in a bad situation." He said, "Tim, I love you. You're probably the best recruiter I've ever met. But I can't have you here, dude." So I go to prison. I get out 13 and a half months later.
You went for 13 and a half months?
Well, they gave me 7 years. So I go to court October 30th of 2012. The whole point about Elia was when I got out of prison 2 days later, I had a check for $5,000 at my house, FedEx, from Elia Tolman. Wow. And it was my last commission check that man owed me. He didn't need to pay me. He didn't need to. I didn't know about it, and he paid me, and I'll always respect Elia Tolman.
And you needed that fucking money.
Bam. I called my ex-wife because she divorced me in prison. We'll get to that.
Right.
And I said, "Here's $2,500. She goes, "What is this?" I said, "It's half of this check I got, and half's yours." She said, "My God, the kids can have a great Christmas now." But
when you went away, did you leave the wife any money? Did you have any money?
You had to ask that fucking question. 6 weeks before I went to prison, I'd got a commission check for 20 grand. And I'm like, I'm going to spend $5,000 on drugs. I'll give Shannon 15. In 4 weeks, I spent all the money on drugs. My old cab driver, who used to be my cocaine dealer, he got popped off on an immigration hold, went to prison for a year and a half, got out, dead sober, Bible thumper. He'd drive me to buy heroin every day and read the Bible to me. I mean, you just can't. These things, it's like this is a movie, but is it true? Is this guy the best liar in the world? No, man, it's all real.
It's a lot worse than you can tell.
So I remember the day I'm going to court, October 30th of 2012, and Shannon and my little daughter Abby drive me to the train station. And I remember hugging them, and I remember Shannon saying, well, we'll order pizza tonight. I said, Shannon, I'm not coming back tonight. I said, if you don't hear from me by 10 in the morning, they've taken me. I get in, Judge Wattis, and he's going back and forth, and all I'm hearing is 12 to 14, 12 to 14. All of a sudden he goes, all right, 3-3-1, 7 years, and slams his gavel. And I'm just like, what? They take me right and back, and the CO, I said, yo, dude, I need my coat. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, my coat's out in there. Well, don't worry about it. I said, it's got my cell phone on my wall, and I need to give it to my lawyer. So dumbass go, and I wear a Hell's Angel Carhartt jacket to court. God. That's what I wear to court, a Hell's Angels jacket. Go Hell's Angels, Sport Local 81. So anyhow, I don't know what I'm thinking, but I had stopped on the way at my dealer's and bought 60 bags of heroin. And I put them all in my Carhartt coat, and I'm snorting them. And the poor Polish cab lady is like, this guy's insane. I said, don't worry, I'm going to prison. Take me to court. So they take me in back, and I give my lawyer, Dick, the wallet and the cell phone. I said, here, mail this back. And it's like, man, I appreciate everything. And I put on my coat, and they take me back to the bullpen. And instantly, bags of heroin start falling on the ground out of my coat because it's getting moved around. So I was able to shuffle it, and I got into my sock, and I was worried about going through the radar detector machine. It never went off. I got in with the dope. My reason was...
Not all the dope. You got some dope.
I had about 50 bags on me.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
You've been the most popular guy in the cell block.
Well, there was one poor cat puking its brains out in the bullpen. I said, are you dope sick? He said, yeah. I said, here's a bag. He's like, thank you. I said, dude, you're going to still be sick in 8 hours, but it'll knock it off now. My thinking was I didn't want to be dope sick because you could see the doctor and they give you meds. I don't really remember Cook County Jail. We get shackled up to go to Northern Illinois Receiving Center right next to Stateville. Back there again, and it's just hell on earth because it's just A hall, B hall, C hall, D hall. 12 cells long, 3 stories up, just people screaming 24/7. And that's when the sickness kicked in.
Oh, God.
Now, you got to realize I'm drinking a gallon of vodka a day and doing 5 grams of heroin. I weigh 158 pounds. And I start shitting and puking myself for 2 weeks.
And you're somebody's celly, right?
Yeah, but I only had a celly part of the time. But when you're in there, you never leave the cell. If you could shower once a week, but they walk you down to another cell that's turned into a shower.
I understand.
Because this guy's a rapist, a murderer, and they got to figure out what prison to send you to. There's 28. Right. So about 2 weeks in, I get over the sickness, but I haven't slept a wink. I didn't sleep a wink for the first month.
I understand.
Nothing. And I look out of my cell, across at the other, and I just said, God, higher power, whatever's out there, please take away this obsession and compulsion use, and I swear I will turn my own life over to you. And I said, God, I got one more favor. Please let me get into Sheridan Prison. And 3 a.m, there's a brown bag dropped in front of my cell with a number on it. It was a number for Sheridan Prison. 28 prisons in Illinois, 2 had therapeutic communities, and Sheridan was one. So they get you up at like 4 a.m. and take you to the bullpens to see the doctor. And all I hear is, on my mama, keep 100, on my mama, this loudmouth Quelo. I'm the only white guy. So I got to listen to this friggin' yapper. I get handcuffed next to Quelo on the bus. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And to Quelo, it's a game. I got a 7-piece. I got a 12-piece. What'd you get, 8? Oh, man, yeah, like it's a badge honor. And there's a white guy, about 50 years old, in the back of the bus, double shackled, with 2 guards on each side of him.
Oh, boy.
And Quelo turns around and goes, so, Whitey, what'd you get? And 40 to life. He goes, what'd you do? I caught my girlfriend cheating on me, so I cut off her head and her boyfriend's head and mailed them to her mom, FedEx. That was it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy just cut off 2 people's heads. So we pull into Sheridan Prison, and we're getting off the bus, and Quelo gets off the bus. And I'm like, on my mama, don't let this guy be my celly. And sure shit, Quelo's my celly.
He is.
So since it was still a medium prison, you're locked down 18 hours a day, but it was therapeutic community. So you do group 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. We had a structure board, and you had to wear these baby blue jump Smurf outfits. You look like a walking douchebag. But you had to say this poem and do these things. It was an honor to be able to get out of it and get your dress blues. So we're in SEG for the first 30 days. We get 1 hour out at night for day room. That's it. And Quelo's a gang chief with the Stones, which I didn't know. Big guy. He'd do pull-ups on the bar. He'd do 500. You'd see the 7 bullet holes in his back. I mean, it's a real deal. So we go to day room, and Quelo's like, dude, can you get on the phone? And it's funny you keep saying Peaches, because Quelo's girlfriend was named Peach. And he's like, if you can get a 3-way with Peach, I'll get you to the front of the line every time. I'm like, no problem. We'd walk out every time I was up at the front of the line. But that first night in the day room, we come back, and Quelo's like, hey, Tim, help me get this jumpsuit off. I said, Quelo, you're a good dude. I don't go that way. He said, either do I. Now help me get it off. And as I pull his suit off, chili ramen noodles are falling out everywhere in write-outs. And he's got 2 pads of note paper. And I'm like, what's going on? He goes, dude, I'm a chief. I'm fucking plugged. These people take care of me. This is all mine. You're my celly. Half of it's now yours. I'm like, damn, I like you, Quelo. Quelo taught me how to cook a chili ramen noodle on a hot pipe that night. But it was a good experience with Quelo. And then I did 30 days in the orientation hall. And you want to get into one of the little buildings in back. And I did. And I get in, and word for word. I walk into the cell, and there's this big black dude, 400 pounds, all muscle, sitting on the bunk like this, reading an AA big book. And I walk in, I say, hey, man, what's up? You're me. Hey, Whitey, you into recovery? I said, yeah, why? So if not, you ain't coming in this fucking cell, brother, because that's all we do. I said, I'm into recovery. He says, hey, I'm Big Perk. I said, hey, Big Perk, I'm Tim. He shakes my hand. He looks at me again. He goes, Tim, I think I'm going to call you Powder. I said, you can call me whatever you want. Perk was a chief with the conservative vice lords on the west side for 30 years.
God.
Ruthless human being. My dearest friend in the world, the man saved my life. Because we weren't there to do push-ups for Noodle and get swole. We didn't have a TV. I never got a TV. I was there to change. And Perk and I went through the 12 steps of AA, of NA, read the Bible 3 times, read 400 to 500 books from Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, Unleash the Ultimate. Every motivational book, I read it. Think Rich, Go Rich. We wrote 2 business plans, Man of Recovery Foundation and Hanson. Watch corn grow, cut down. My worst fear was my son was going to die while I was in prison. He OD'd 2 more times.
Which one?
My oldest son, Nick.
See, you adopted Nick.
What I left out of my story was when I ultimately got to hit the cars, fight in the case. Everybody knows I'm a heroin addict now. And about 3 months out of fighting my case, I'm taking a hot bath because I don't have any dope. And Nick walks in. He's 17, 18. He said, what's wrong, Pops? So what do you think, you idiot? I'm dope sick. He said, no more, Dad. Today's your lucky day. And my son threw 2 bags of heroin on the counter.
Oh, God, though.
And I got out of the tub, and I snorted those immediately. And I went in his room. I said, Nick, what the hell are you doing? So what are you talking about, Dad? He said, I'm just selling a little bit. I said, Nick, you need to shut this down. This isn't weed. This is heroin. You know what this has done to me? And my son looked right at me and said, well, Dad, you're a successful drug addict. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, we got a nice house, got an office in the Wrigley building. You make a good living. See, in Nick's delusional mind, because I functioned, he thought I was successful.
The whole world.
Yeah.
What you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole world.
Best.
Half the world is living like that.
Right.
We don't know. We just see the outside. Oh, it must be doing great.
Right. So 3 months later, 2 months later, I caught him and his buddy snorting heroin. So we started doing heroin together. So my son and I bonded. So we got high every day together. We did drug runs together. And unless you've been in that, you can't comprehend it. But
No.
It's hard to wrap your head around. But don't get me wrong. Nick and I we had some crazy times. We had a lot of good times, too.
I understand.
I taught him to barefoot water ski at 9, skydiving, and my kids were my world, but drugs and alcohol ruled my world.
I understand.
So anyhow,
It was all your family.
yeah, it was insane. But I can remember Father's Day in prison. Shannon brought 2 of the kids to visit me every 2 weeks.
I was going to ask you about that.
Hell yeah, she did.
Did you pick up the phone when you called?
Every time. Every time.
Did you have money in your account?
Yeah, but from my mom put $50 a month on my books. That's it.
How much were you allowed to have?
As much as I wanted.
On your books, you could have
I could have
10
grand.
I didn't know that.
My one Sally had $38,000 on his books.
Right, some guys do that.
Yeah.
They load up. I knew a guy that had $99,999 sent in because 100 was the limit.
Yeah, it's just insane. But, I can remember that night Quelo got me to use the phone and calling Shannon for the first time. I got my PIN number and I got a phone. And I had the stone to ask her for money. She goes, Tim, I don't have it. You left us with nothing.
Right.
But when I went to prison in 2008, she went and got a scholarship to nursing school, full ride. And I had said, why do you? And she said, Tim, the way you're living, you're going to end up in 2 places, back in prison or dead. Well, that's what happened, and now she's a nurse. But Father's Day, I called and said, you coming to visit? She said, yeah, but I need to let you know I sent you a package. I'm like, cool, it send me some magazines. It's like divorce papers. So I was able to deal with that while I was in prison. And Perk and a lot of these former gang people saved my friggin' life. One of the guys, Butler, I met in there was a huge heroin kingpin. He ran an operation from Rockford, Illinois to Mississippi, had all his cousins working for him like American Gangster. My buddy Josh Brolin's in. Shout out, Brolin, love you. But that's what and we became really good friends. He called people by their last names. And I can remember getting out of prison, and Butler called me about a year later, and he said, hey, Tim, it's Butler. I'm like, hey, man, how you doing? He said, I need you to know something. He said, I have never picked up and sold a drug since I met you in prison. And he said, I never will, because I see how it destroyed your life, and it ultimately took your son. And he ended up starting a garbage business and died of a heart attack at a casino 4 years ago. But, even there I was able to make a difference. But I enjoyed prison. I enjoyed prison in the sense I knew I had this time to do, and I didn't have numbers like you.
Well, how much time did you actually do?
I got 7 years. I did 13 and a half months. I walked out December 16th, 3 years.
What year?
2013. I caught my case 2010. It was December 16th. The same day I caught my case, I walked out of prison the same day.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I did 13 and a half months.
And you came out, you're stone cold sober,
lost
right?
our house in foreclosure.
You're sober.
Dead sober.
Right.
Fuck yeah. Already went through the steps. Living a program in there. I was just
But in there, right.
in there.
Now you're coming into real life.
4 months prior to getting out of prison, you do your 120. And you go, so if you need sober living in this. And John Zidek, who ran West Care for the prison there, I went up to him. I said, Mr. Zidek, can I have your card? He said, for what? I said, because I'm going to be your shining motherfucking example walking out of this prison. He said, that's what they all say. Good luck. And he hands me his card. And I walked out, and we lost our home in foreclosure. My wife had to move the kids to her mom's house, 20 miles away, so my kids all had to change schools because of me.
I understand.
They had to change their childhood friends because of fucking me.
I understand.
Those are the things that haunt me.
Those are the painful things.
Yeah.
I went through similar stuff.
Yeah, that I won't forget. Don't regret the past. Fuck, I got some regrets.
I understand.
I don't give a fuck.
I understand.
Because I painted a lot of fucking trauma on my kids' lives.
Innocent people.
Yeah.
You love more than anything
They
in the
didn't
world.
need any of that trauma painted. But
It might make them better, stronger people at some point.
Yeah. So I get out. My ex-wife, Shannon, now picks me up. We have lunch or breakfast, whatever. She takes me to get an iPhone, and her and my mom had found a little townhouse in Naperville, Illinois, strategically because I can remember Shannon came in to meet me, and she said, look, we got a couple options. Your mom reached out. She's willing to help all of us get a house as a family. You can get the house with all the kids, because my kids adored me. Or you can get your own place. And I said, Shannon, for once, I need to put myself first. I need to get my own place because I'm not in the position to be a good dad. Right? I don't
for
know.
Everybody. You don't know.
So all my 4 kids, Nick, Max, Tanner, and Abby, came over that night. We all had Portillo's hot dogs and Italian beefs, and that's the last time I was together with my 4 kids as a family. My parole agent, Ramsey, showed up 4 days later. Soon as Ramsey left, I was at a 12-step meeting. I went to Manny Mills, Radical Timeout, who was a former prison dude, and got a new sponsor, John. Went through the steps again. I took a job back 3 weeks later, I took a job back in the technology space, but I don't have a driver's license. Ross, I took a train to Chicago, hour ride. I walked to Ogilvie train, took another train to Palatine, Illinois. That's another hour, and I took a bus to work. That's a half hour. I commuted 2.5 hours each way to work, and then I could be back for an 8 o'clock 12-step-based meeting that night. And about 3 months in, a church pastor buddy of mine had asked me to start the first Heroin Anonymous meeting in Naperville, Illinois. So I said, sure. 2 weeks later, a kid walks in. He says, I take Xanax. Can I come to your meeting? I said, sure. 2 weeks later, a mom shows up and says, can I sit in on your meeting? I hear you operate different. And I had an epiphany. I'm like, I'm going to have the loved ones come with the addict struggling at the same time. I set up a nonprofit. I quit my job. I actually called my mom. I said, hey, Mom. I'm about 6 months out of prison. I said, can I borrow 15 grand? She said, for what this time? I said, I'm going to set up a Man in Recovery Foundation, this nonprofit, and blah, blah, blah. She goes, I'm going to ask you one question, Tim. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, are you going to pay me back this time? I said, I will. She said, I'll have the money wired into your account tomorrow. And I set up Man in Recovery Foundation, thinking I'm going to save the world. 19 months sober. I'm out of prison now. I'm 19 months sober. My oldest son, Nick's in treatment for the 6th time. I go visit him, and I remember sitting in an office with him, and he's like, Dad, he's like, what about me and you speaking in high schools together, a father and son team? He said, we've been through hell. Now we're on the other side. And I'm like, Nick, let's do it. I said, I just need you to get sober. He said, Dad, I will. 30 days out of treatment, Nick's back in Cook County Jail, did 30 days there, gets transferred to Kane County, does another 15 days there for some bullshit charges, and his mom picks him up, Peaches, takes him to lunch and feeds him and says, Nick, we're done. You're not coming to my house. You're not coming to Dad's. All you do is lie, cheat, and steal.
Where is she living now?
She had a place back in Oswego with the kids, and I'm living in Naperville. And actually,
how far away?
10 miles. Actually, when I got out of prison, my youngest son, Tanner, said, Dad, I want to move in with you. So Tanner's 14. He moved in with me immediately. So it's me and Tanner in the townhouse.
So you weren't alone?
No.
Okay.
Well, no. Then I had Tanner came in, but that poor kid. So anyhow, I set up my nonprofit, and it's August 15th. And I call my son, Nick, and I said, hey, Nick, you're out of jail and all this. And I said, why don't you come into my house and get some Narcan? Reverses the effects of an opiate overdose. He said, Dad, I'm not on that shit anymore. He said, Alexis and we're getting an apartment. I got a sponsor. I'm doing all the right things. And I believed him. 2 days later, 6 in the morning, Shannon calls me and says, Tim, get out of bed. I said, I'm up. She said, I'll be at your house in 10 minutes. Nick OD'd. We got to get to the hospital. I don't normally share this part of the story. I get in Shannon's car, and we're driving to Hinsdale Hospital, and I plug in my iPhone to her car charger, and automatically a song comes up from my playlist, and it's a band called 6 a.m. that Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue started. Nikki Sixx just celebrated, I think, 20 years of sobriety. He wrote a book called The Heroin Diaries. I remember going to see Nikki at Oak Brook, shooting a brig of heroin, going in to get a book signing, and asking him to be my sponsor because I was so rocked. But anyhow, he had put together a band called 6 a.m. All the songs are heroin related. I plug in the phone, and the song that comes up is called Courtesy Call, and it's about someone being found dead from an OD in a hotel room. So I unplugged the phone. We look at each other, and we actually stopped at the wrong hospital very quickly. And I'm like, no, we got to go to Hinsdale, 5 minutes down the road. And we run into the emergency room. Tim and Shannon Ryan were here to see our son, Nick. He overdosed. And 30 seconds later, the chaplain walked out. I knew my son was dead instantly. Oh, God. And I'll ask people what was my next thought. And they'll be like, oh, you wanted to get high. No, my next thought was I need to call my sponsor. And they took us back in the room, and the doctor comes in, and he's trying to be, and well, you do know your son had I said, yeah, I know he did drugs. Is he alive or dead? And he says he didn't make it.
How old was he?
20. And that scream his mother let out is burned into my soul forever. I will never forget it.
And I remember I went back in the next room they took me, and there's my beautiful 20-year-old son laid out. He has the aspirator in his mouth. He's blue. He's ice cold, but he also looked at peace. And I looked up and I said a prayer, and I said, I thank you, God, for taking him this way versus mangling him in a car accident. An overdose is very peaceful, and Nick's work here was done. And we're dealing with that, and my mom's coming in, and my dad. And Tanner and I don't talk right now. We'll text minimally, but it's a whole nother story, and it's been like this for 3 years. But I'll never forget that 14-year-old kid sitting there looking at his dead brother, just crying in it. I caused a lot of this. I started this, and I didn't kill my son. He knew what to do, but I still feel like I'll kill my own son. And I'll live with that for the rest of my life. And I normally carry a necklace with his ashes on it, but I have it in L.A. But nevertheless, I'm dealing with this, and then the cops come. And the cop says, the detectives, I need to talk to you. And they take me down the hall, and it's a glass room, and I can see 2 males and a female. And the cop says, there they are. I said, who's that? And he said, that's your son's girlfriend, his 2 friends he is with. We're charging them all with drug-induced homicide.
God almighty.
I said, the fuck you are. And he looked at me like I had horns growing out of my head. He said, well, what the fuck do you want to do? And I said, first off, that's my dead kid down the hall. That's his girlfriend and his 2 friends. I used to get high with my son. I could have been there. I want to get them all into treatment. He said, fine, do it. And I started getting them. One of the kids ended up dying. His girlfriend, bless her soul, Lexus, is now a ICU neonatal nurse.
Wow.
Dead sober. Her dad was a Cook County sheriff. Conrad used to call me and say, Tim, I just popped this kid. He's got 10 bags of heroin. What do you want me to do? I'm like, take him to this rehab. So I'd had Chicago cops putting people into rehab. In his negative, though, in his passing, a lot of positives came out of it. I can, 3 months after Nick died, I get some message on Facebook, and this guy wants to meet me for coffee. So I go meet him, and he's like, Nick, they called him Isaac Ryan. And this guy goes, I knew your son Isaac, not that well, but I knew him, and he's a great guy. And he said, I'm at a rave in Chicago. I'm frying on ecstasy. And the DJ, this is 2 months ago, he said the DJ stops the music and says, I want to take a moment of silence for our dear friend Nick Isaac Ryan that passed away, and we love you. He said, I turned around, walked out, went right to rehab, and I'm now 2 months sober. And I said, I want to thank you because it's your son that saved my life. I've put over 100 of my son's friends into treatment, and I got a call from Gary, whose house my son died at. So what I had found out was my son snorted 2 bags of heroin. Gary gave him a Xanax bar. Well, you mix a benzo with opiates, you're going to die. It suppresses your system. You stop breathing.
Right.
And they knew Nick was overdosed. And then they panicked, and they went in the basement and did more drugs, came up an hour later, he was dead. If they would have called 911, he'd be alive.
He had a shot, right.
They have the Good Samaritan law. People don't know about this. That's why when my wife and I, Jenny, speak in high schools and we educate, if you're at a party, you're doing drugs, or someone ODs from alcohol or drugs, call the police. Police show up. Good Samaritan law. They take the drugs, save the person, leave. Nobody gets arrested. But nobody educates our youth about this.
Where do you hear Chuck's story?
Yeah.
He was a good Samaritan, went to prison.
That is, see that?
But we'll talk about that.
Well, it's funny because there's a horrific Jim Glasgow, I hate you, you state's attorney in Will County, Illinois. You can suck my balls. Seriously, the guy's a scumbag. I had a chief of police whose kid OD'd and got popped with some dope. We went in front, and Glasgow put the guy's son in prison because I'm trying to help a chief of police. Well, anyhow, Glasgow's at this big heroin event, and somebody asked a question. He said, what am I supposed to do? Somebody ODs, call 911. We have the Good Samaritan law. He said, what if I call 911, you come save him, you take him to the hospital, he dies? He goes, then I'm charging you with drug-induced homicide. He said, that's why nobody will ever call to get help, you idiot.
Right.
So it's a double-bladed sword. But I totally forgot where I'm at.
Well, your son passing.
Yeah, so, it was.
What year, what day was that?
No, August 1st of 2014.
And you're stone cold clean now.
Stone cold. I went to an AA meeting that night.
Yeah.
12-step base. I shouldn't break traditions. I went to a meeting that night.
I
And
remember
there
when
was
that
a
happened.
newcomer there, and I can remember her. And I lived at the West Suburban Fellowship Club at the Elno Club. I was surrounded by men in recovery and women that helped me. But the next day, I'm on the front page of the Chicago Sun-Times. Anti-heroin crusader loses son to overdose. So, Nick, we did a huge service at the church where I did my support groups on a Wednesday night. It's over 1,000 people that showed up. I didn't know half of these people. And they were all people in recovery that knew a father had lost his son. Because you got to understand that not many people were dying from overdoses like they are now. And it was big news.
The pre-fentanyl.
Yeah, I mean, Congressman Bill Foster, who I'd met prior, shows up to my son's funeral. Wow. And Bill and I became really good friends. Bill then took me to the 2016 State of the Union address, Barack Obama's. And that's one of the coolest accomplishments. Not many people can say they've been to the State of the Union address.
Right. And invited by a member of Congress.
Yeah,
so.
That's one of the neater things I've done, and going through all the tunnels underneath. Now I see where they traffic all the children. Only a joke, but they do.
Right.
You know, but
they do.
You know, I look at the conversations Nick brought up at our Elno Club. I've got his name, but we had a big skateboard memorial for him, and I did that for a few years, and a bench at the skateboard park. And my buddy Brandon Novak, who was a pro skater and in Jackass, and Novak came out, and he's one of my buddies. But, you know, I started helping a lot of his friends, and it's his best friend, Adam Silvers. Adam had basically raised by us on and off since he was 12. His parents were divorced. He's always at our house. Well, Adam used to drive me and Nick to Chicago because we both lost our license, and he started doing heroin with us because of me. When I went to prison, Adam joined the Navy or something. When I got out, Nick died. Adam was in a sober living. And my son Tanner says, Dad, why don't we have Adam move in with us? I said, that is a great idea. So Adam moved out of sober living, moves in with us, get a new sponsor. And at 10 months sober, I shipped Adam to Florida. I'm now working in the treatment space, too. With Banyan, I started with them. And I was going to open Naperville, so I sent Adam and his girlfriend to get trained up. They spent 5 months there. They come back. And our clinical space was downtown Naperville. And right across the street, Adam's girlfriend's uncle owned the house, so they rented a apartment there. 2 weeks into opening Naperville, Adam doesn't show up for work. And I said, Liz, where is he? He said, oh, he's sick. He's got the flu. I'm like, he borrowed my truck the night before. I'm the only guy that gets a job and gets a company car and a full-time driver because I don't have a license. I always negotiated that into my deal. It was a great deal. My son Max worked for me for 4 years. Out of high school, kids
You
making.
still don't have a license?
No, I've had it 3 years now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't have one for 20 years.
I get it. Thank God. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, who knows?
Yeah, got a nice AMG GL 53 out in California, another one I just bought. So, yeah, if I'm going to drive something nice. It's the one nice thing I have is a hot wife and a nice car. But
you really don't need too much more in life.
I don't need anything.
You got a big story.
I need a couple good friends. And,
friendship is everything.
Yeah, but
so, keep going. I want you to tell more.
I'm trying to figure out where I was at.
Well, you know, your poor son passed. You had the service.
Nick died,
1,000 people show up.
Yeah, so...
Adam moved in with you.
Adam, thank you. So Adam, he comes back, and he's sick that day. So at lunchtime, Liz, his girlfriend, was our admission. She said, I'm going to go have lunch. And 5 minutes later, Taylor, one of our clinicians, runs in my office and said, Tim, get across the street. Adam's overdosed. I said, quit fucking around. I said, Tim, I'm serious. So I run across to the house. We kick in the door, and there's my second son laid out dead with a needle in his arm.
Oh, my God, bro.
So we're doing CPR, biles coming in our mouth. But Adam had borrowed my truck the night before, said he wanted to go to a meeting, and he used my truck to go buy heroin. And I'd found out that his girlfriend caught him huffing inhalants 2 weeks prior. I said, Liz, why didn't you tell me?
What does that mean, inhalants?
People get high inhaling things like paint or ether or
really?
Duster for your computer. You get high as a kite on it.
Really?
Don't do it.
No, I use an inhalant once in a while.
Munches your
albuterol for bronchial asthma.
Well, I do that. I got one in my pocket.
Right.
No, these people are getting high off computer duster and inhalant. So he was doing some inhalant. And I said, why didn't you tell me?
Fuck.
And she said he didn't want to lose his job and he didn't want to disappoint you. Yeah. I said I would have got him help and he would have never disappointed me.
Right.
And when Nick died, Adam stepped up as a big brother, and my other Max, Tanner, and
I
Abby.
understand.
And now he dies. My kids were devastated. And it took my youngest son, Tanner, down a road of getting into dealing and getting caught in prison, and he's finally out off parole. But I look back, too. I've done a lot of great things in recovery, but damn it, I did a lot of damage to my own kids. A lot of damage.
Collateral damage, boy.
And you know what? People still like to throw that in your face. Oh, you killed your kid. No, I didn't. He actually snorted the drugs on his own and killed himself. Did I partake? Possibly. But my son had been to treatment 6 times. He knew what to do. But I shut those voices down because I can look at the things we've done to help people. And that's why I started the nonprofit. Was we brought in almost $2 million in about 7 years. We gave it all away. Never took salary. Never used a card for shit except paying for people to get in sober living, long-term treatment centers that were cost-effective. I worked in treatment so I could help everyone with insurance and ran these support groups. But Nick dying, I wrote my book. I'm a State of the Union. Next thing I've got, I get a call from Candy Carter, who owned New Chapter Entertainment in Chicago. She's some executive, and she says, I want to come out and meet you. So she comes out with her sidekick, and they said, well, we're doing a documentary on the gangs and why all the white people from the suburbs are buying heroin. I said, you'd be great for it. Well, I had 3 cell phones, one for my nonprofit, my work phone, and my personal, and they're all ringing. Like, what do you do? And I said, I just help people. And she said, well, we could do a show on you. So they started filming, and they went bankrupt. So I bought all the footage for $400, and Tiff Winston, who was the showrunner, says, Tim, let's get on a plane and go to L.A. We'll go meet CAA and Abrams artists, and I got a meeting set up with Jason Hervey and Eric Bischoff. So we go out there, and my first meeting's with Jason Hervey, who was in the Wonder Years, the older brother, and Eric Bischoff with WWE and WCW Wrestling. And
Yeah.
So I meet Jason. I like the guy. I didn't know what I'm doing. I said, yeah, I'll sign with you. I never went and saw CAA or any of these other companies. So 3 weeks later, Jason says, I got you a flight. We're going to New York. So we go meet A&E, meet Tiff and Jason. We go in. We had a little sizzle reel, and I sit down with the vice president. We have a really nice lady. And we're done. We go downstairs, and Jason goes, what do you think? I don't know. That was really cool. I don't give a shit about this. He goes, Tim, I don't think you realize what just happened in that room. He said, you get a 10 to 15-minute pitch. That's it. He said, you were in there for an hour and a half, and you got the senior vice president of A&E crying her eyes out and hugging you. Said, they're going to sign a deal. Next day, A&E called and said, pull them off the market, signed a deal. 3 weeks later, I have 25 people at my house. 25. Cameramen, boom men, mic men, money men. It's
right.
It's so funny because they said, what do we do? I said, nothing. We just wait for the fucking phones to ring. And then they did. And one of my greatest successes.
Where's your house now?
Lake Worth Beach, Florida, and Beverly Hills,
No,
California.
at the time.
That time I was living in Naperville. Had my townhouse in Naperville.
In
Everything I built this was out of Naperville, Illinois. I built my foundation, everything out of Chicagoland. I owned Chicago in the sense of recovery because I came out of nowhere, but I just wanted to help. And then I'm getting a lot of PR. And then I get a phone call from a mom I helped. Said, I want you to talk to this lady, Wendy. It was the Bill and Wendy show in Chicago on WGN Radio, #1 talk show. Wendy and I become friends. I did the Bill and Wendy show over 50 times in 4 years. And they give me an hour. And I give out my cell phone, this phone. We helped thousands, if not tens of thousands of families.
But everybody in the area knows you. Knows your recovery guy.
Yeah.
Knows your story.
Everybody knew.
You can talk, bro. You can go. I mean, you're telling your story.
I started.
Wow, I'm deeply affected.
I did that, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I took all my recruiting skills and applied them to this. 6 months out of prison, there's a thing called Dare to Know on 2 cops that were speaking about drugs. And a doctor had commented, why are cops educating people about drugs? So I called the cop. I said, I don't want to meet you. I'm a felon. I just got out of prison. He's like, shit, meet me at the cigar shop Friday night. So I'm sitting outside talking to a guy for a half an hour, and I realize it's not Rich. He's inside watching me, laughing his ass off. I come in, he goes, you dumbass, I'm Rich Wistocki. Rich and I sat there for 5 hours. And he said, Tim, you're the missing link. But I'm a cop. I'm a SWAT sniper. I'm a detective, and I'm going to vet your ass. And if I catch you in one lie, we're fucking done. I said, I'll never lie to you, Rich. And we started the Cop and the Convict, to where we'd go speak in schools and parents' presentations, because you want to know what your kids are up to? You got to get into their technology. Everything they're doing is in Facebook, Snapchat.
Somewhere.
And I'll give you the software to mirror their phones. And so that's what Rich would educate. And I'd share my story. And then I pulled Rich into the treatment industry. Then we started building first responder programs. And next thing, we're keynoting the Illinois Sheriff's Association for 3 hours. So I share, and Rich and I do our Cop and Convict presentation. And then I'm sharing again. And there's this older guy in the front row, little short guy. He keeps at, what kind of nonprofit do you have? How many employees? What do you do with your money? I said, you seem to know so fucking much. Maybe I'll put you on my board. He goes, maybe I'll join it. I don't know who this man is. It's just how I operate. My son slides me a note. He goes, Tim, that's Howard Buffett, Warren Buffett's son.
Oh, my God.
One of the biggest philanthropists in the world.
In the world.
So I meet Howard afterwards. Well, Howard's a big farmer in Central Illinois, big donor. But he was also a part-time cop with the McLean County Sheriff, I think. And he became sheriff. But he says, Tim, I gave him my book, and he says, I want to talk to your attorney. So his attorney calls my attorney. That man wanted to donate $35 million to my nonprofit to build
Let's take it.
I needed to be open 5 years. I'd only been open 2 at the time.
You.
Last year, my wife and I were doing 30 speaking events in Central Illinois in a week, and we got to go speak at the free treatment center Howard Buffett built.
Wow.
And it's absolutely free of charge if you don't have resources in Central Illinois. And it's just a beautiful thing. So I like rubbing shoulders like that, like people like Howard Buffett that really put their money where their mouth is. And they put it to help people. You know, so I started the second program in the country where a drug addict can walk into a police station and ask for help, to where we trained the police officers. We had volunteers. Somebody could walk in. We had beds set up at treatment centers. So all they had to do was come in and ask. Within 4 hours, they're in a treatment center. And we started about 80 more of those. And it got tough, though, because then out of prison, I met another lady at a meeting. She is married. Next thing, she leaves her husband. Next thing, she's shacking with me. Next thing, she's pregnant. And I called her up. I said, man, we got to quit dating. You know, you're crazy as a loon. I said, I got to tell you something. I'm pregnant. Said, not by me. Yes, by me. So then I had Mackenzie. And 4 months after Mackenzie was born, her mom pulled a fake suicide attempt. So she's in the psych ward. I've got a 4-month-old baby. I'm recently out of prison. I'm working in treatment. I'm running a nonprofit. I'm doing one of the Chicago news shows literally once or twice a week.
Who's taking care of the baby?
Well, so I flew my mom up from
I'm
Florida.
thinking mom or Shannon?
No, well, no, not Shannon. Shannon's good to her. I don't talk to Shannon much anymore. But anyhow, I flew my mom up, or she flew her ass up for a couple days, and then I had my nanny show up at my house. Who's my nanny?
Oh, no. The Sully.
Big Perk.
Big Perk.
Damn straight.
Say that.
Big Perk was I called up Perk. I said, dude, I need your help.
I need some help.
He came there, moved into my house. I'd come home from work. He's got my little daughter in the kitchen sink, bathing her. Dinner would be ready.
Big gangster.
Big gangster. Chicago gang chief for 30 years, taking care of my daughter. And I can remember Rich came by the house, the cop, and he says, what the fuck are you doing, dude? This guy's a gangster. I said, Rich, I trust him more than I trust you. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, I lived in a cell with that man for 13 and a half months.
Yeah.
I'll walk to the end of the earth for him any day.
Gotcha.
Perk's my dearest brother in the world to this day. So I wouldn't be alive without James.
Now,
Perkins.
this baby is yours still?
Yeah, Mackenzie's mine. So
How
Perk's there.
How old is she now?
9.5.
And where does she live?
She, with her mom in southern Georgia, it was hell on earth. Her mom struggled with addiction and mental health, and I'd come home from trips, and my house would be cleared out. And I left her when Mackenzie was 3.5 because I had to. It was just insane. But we've always had full custody. Finally got things settled. Her mom finally got remarried, married a really nice guy in southern Georgia. So she's only 6 hours from me. I just had her last week.
And you speak on the phone with your
every
daughter?
day. Oh, every day.
Every
Multiple
day.
times. Hell yeah.
She knows you. She knows
I
Jennifer.
talk to all my kids every day. Every day.
I just want to hear all these things.
Every
I do as well, by the way.
fucking day.
Yep, I get it.
My kids are my world and all that. But
That's great news.
her and her mom, though, it's not like if
I get it.
if her mom drinks again, she'll never see the kid. I will take her forever.
I understand.
It's caused her too much trauma. But we had a great Christmas. She's doing well. She's in a private school. Life is good there. My other daughter, Abby, lives right here. She's in Boynton Beach. She works for my buddy's recruiting firm. My son, Max, plays in a bunch of bands and's doing my voiceover for my other book. My other son, Tanner, drives a semi. So, yeah, life is good there.
Where does he make home, Tanner?
What does he what?
Where does he make home?
Make home.
Where does he live?
Oh,
He's
in
not
Illinois.
driving.
They're all Tanner and Max and their mom are in northern Illinois. Max lives with some buddies in his band. Tanner's with his mom. Abby's here. Mackenzie's in Georgia, and Jenny and I live on airplanes between here and Illinois.
I got that. Okay, now,
It's insane.
now you got the A&E.
Yeah.
25 people show up at your house. It's all
insane. So
now you're
very
actually
good. You remember?
You're
Yeah.
doing like a reality show or something.
Yeah. So we were going to series. It was so funny because, I mean, you were talking earlier, your gentleman, about the cameras. This guy's got, so what's that thing worth? He's like, that's $300,000. I'm like, what?
Right.
But one of the scenes in the show, I had got a prostitute 2 weeks earlier out of Rockford, Illinois, got her in detox. She walked out. Her mom calls me and says, Tim, I think she's in this hotel. So I go looking for her, and I find the pimp driving with Becky. So I'm chasing him. I call my cop buddy. I'm like, dude, run a bolo on this plate. These guys are wheeling. And they pull into the hotel, and Becky comes to the car. She's like, Tim, don't mess with these people. I said, I don't care. I'm here for you. And the pimp comes up to the car and threatens to shoot me. I got a gun. I'm going to shoot you. I said, man, you ain't shooting me. I'm leaving with her, and I left with her. Got her into detail. I took her to my office. I had a private office for my nonprofit. And I said, Becky, I got her Portillo's. And I said, you need to call your mom. And I will never forget that girl calling her mother and saying, I'm safe. I'm with Tim. I love you. I'm going to get help. And I put her in a detox for about 2 weeks. Becky had been sex trafficked since she was 12 years old. And got her out, and her mom met me at my office. And I gave them $2,500 cash. And I said, get in the car and go. And her mom was driving her across to South Carolina to this treatment center, but they'd never been on vacation. I said, I'm paying for your vacation. I want you to stop in every state. And they took 3 days to get to South Carolina. And Becky completed maybe a year-long program, came back, Salvation Army, had a little relapse. But anyhow, she just got married. She's pregnant. And she's a substance abuse counselor. She's my greatest success
You're
story.
doing some great things.
Yeah.
Now, tell us, let's just jump forward a little bit.
A lot.
You know, you've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
Where does Jennifer come in?
So, well, right now, so I'm doing all this, and so we were going to go to series. It was called Dope Man. And a week prior, maybe 10 days, A&E calls and says we're running it as a documentary. What I found out after the fact is, maybe a guy coming up to threaten to shoot us, and the way I operate, there's no filter. But they wanted to push my show they ran it before the season premiere of Intervention. So my show was seen, I think, 10 times worldwide. It's pretty cool. But what we did, I've done a number of TED Talks. So my buddy Arthur Zards that runs TEDx Naperville says, dude, let's do your documentary. We'll set it up like TEDx. 500 people in the audience. I did a huge book signing prior, and we're watching it. It's a stupid show, Ayers. Lois, rest your soul, Lois. It's always good to go see people. When Jenny and I were in Chicago 3 months ago with my buddy Jay Moore and Cowboy Dan speaking in a prison, the prison I was an inmate we were in, I said, I need to go visit Lois and Stanley that donated the office space. So I went to go visit Lois and Stanley for my nonprofit. Lois died a month ago from old age, but I'm just grateful I was able to go see her.
Yeah.
I actually was doing out of prison my hours to get a hardship to drive, and Lois said, me and Stanley want to show you something. They took me downstairs. They see all this space? I said, yeah. They said, it's now yours. This is where we want you to have an office for a Man in Recovery Foundation. Wow. But she had a little sign outside that said, Tim Ryan, Man in Recovery, 312-502-8671. Yes, that's my personal cell phone. You need help, pick up the phone and call me. It's no bullshit. That's my number. And I give it out anywhere.
That's his number, everybody.
312-502-8671. Tim Ryan, from Dope to Hope. Dope Man. But it aired on the documentary. And all of a sudden, my son's like, Dad, what's going on?
Oh, world's cool.
10,000 phone calls
I
we
understand.
received.
I get it.
And we returned every call in 10 days. I had a team of about 10, 12 people.
Wow.
We helped all
That's
those.
the kind of guy you are.
Yeah, but that was a cool experience. But then I was doing 250 speaking events and interventions and growing treatment centers. And I had a lady come up to me, about 30, at a speaking event. And afterwards, she's like, oh, my God, my dad molested me and this and that. And I'm like, oh, I was molested too, but I'm not a therapist. I'm just a speaker. I'm like, I need to partner with a female. And I'd been following Jennifer Jimenez, who was a supermodel discovered at 13 years old by Bruce Weber on the Santa Monica Pier. She was raised in Argentina with dirt roads and donkeys. Next thing, supermodel. And then she did music videos with Prince, Lionel Richie, Mick Jagger, Babyface, Tupac Shakur. She's in the All About You videos. She's one of the motorcycle cops. She's in all Tupac's books. And then her breakout role was in a little movie called Blow with Johnny Depp about Boston George Young and
What a great movie.
his cocaine smuggling. Remind me to tell you about George. So then Vanilla Sky, Sweetest Thing, all that, and then she couldn't stay sober. My wife, when she finally went to treatment, she hung herself in the psych ward because she was laced with horse tranquilizer, heroin, opiates, and she had been in, left, came back, and hung herself. Had to go from wheelchair to a walker to a cane. Dr. Drew Pinsky was her actual doctor in treatment. And the ironic thing is I did the Steve Harvey show in 2015 with Dr. Drew. We did an intervention with manure, got him sober, and then Drew wrote the back of my book. That's Dr. Drew.
Yep.
And so anyhow, I reach out to Jenny.
Sorry, I had a woman here
Yeah?
just this past week, Andrea Ocampo. Andrea, we're checking, baby. The real Andrea Ocampo. She was a WWE girl. She was a Miami Dolphin cheerleader. But she is right now filming Dr. Drew's show, whatever he's doing right now.
I just talked to Drew. Jen and I texted with Drew yesterday. He'll be here. He's doing a speaking event for a Banyan Treatment Center I used to work for.
She's working with him today.
Yeah,
I can't call it till after 4.
I'll be damned.
Isn't that a wild? Isn't it crazy how things go?
I mean, here.
But isn't that crazy?
Oh, yeah. Drew's right here.
She was just here.
So Drew declared my wife dead, called my mother-in-law 3 times and said, your daughter's one of the hopeless cases, but I'm going to go through the motions, but I don't know if she'll make it through the detox. Well, she did and all that. And she was a defiant client. Drew hated her, one of the worst. She'll be dead in a year. Just help her and do what you can. Well, she got a year sober and started bringing in all her celebrity sober friends to do H&I, bring in the 12 set-based meetings. She got sober in Compton with her Teresa. I can use Teresa's name, Teresa Fair, little Puerto Rican, 38 years sober, will rock your world, and took Jen to all the toothless people meetings. That's what they called it. And they'd be like, oh, little pretty princess has to say.
I hate to say it, Tim, but right now you qualify.
Totally. I look like an absolute
We get you
donger.
to that meeting.
You know what? That's why I called you. I'm like, man, my teeth, like, who cares? I don't really give
I
a
don't
shit.
care either.
I don't care either.
I've done the same thing.
Yeah. But anyhow, Jenny then, Drew calls her 2.5 years out of rehab and says, what are you doing? Said, nothing. He said, well, I'm doing this show on VH1 called Sober House. It's a spinoff from Celebrity Rehab. And Jenny, I want you to run the house. And she said, why me, Drew? And he said, it's people like you that prove me wrong and keep me doing what I do on a daily basis.
What a compliment.
And
that
she
is.
goes, ain't that about a bitch? Drew is my, saved my wife's life.
And I watched Celebrity Rehab, just so you know.
Yeah.
And then I watched Sober House. I
Yeah,
wanted to know
so she
that.
did that, and then a season Celebrity Rehab, Real Rehab with Dr. Drew, and then Brandy Glanville, who's one of her best friends, pulled her on. She did 4 seasons of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills as a friend with
Which
Brandy.
my ex-wife watches all the time.
Unbelievable.
And
so
my friend Paul Kelmsley is on that.
sure.
And PK just got sober.
Yep, I'll be darned. It's
This season is about him being sober. I just spoke to him on the phone for like an hour.
Yeah, so they wanted her to come on as a full-time wife. She's like, I'm not even married. So I had shot her a message and all this, and I wanted to partner up for work. Would you want to partner up speaking, do an intervention? So we were messaging, and I told her I'd be in Florida this weekend. She was coming, and I blew her off. So then I get to, hey, thanks for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So Jenny and I talked for 6 weeks on the phone, and it was a Tuesday, and I'm in Illinois, and I can remember saying, Tim, you seem like a great guy, but you always got to check your schedule. I don't think she realized how busy I really was. And I said, you bitch. So I get on my phone. I booked a flight to Fort Lauderdale. I texted to her. I said, Jen, I'll see you Friday. Pick me up at 11. You got an interview at noon. She goes, what? I hang up the phone. She calls me, she goes, you coming in? I said, yeah, and I got you an interview at my treatment center. We're going to hire you. So she picks me up at Fort Lauderdale. She gives me a hug and a little kiss on the cheek, but Ross, was like we're connected instantly. And I'm in the middle of my second divorce. So I take her right to transformations. She interviews for a few hours. I make her an offer, and I take her to a late lunch, early dinner. I've known her 4 hours. I said, I'm going to marry you and spend the rest of my life with you. And she says, hold on. Maybe you want to finish that second divorce? I said, that'll be done in 5 weeks. She goes, maybe you want to sow your oats, play the field. I said, I don't roll that way. I know what I want, and I want you. I was divorced.
You hadn't slept with her yet.
No. I was divorced 5 weeks later.
But she's pretty hot.
Damn hot.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I moved to California and divorced 5 weeks later. We're engaged 4 months later. I married her that year, December 31st, 2019 at the Justice of the Peace. So on our 5th wedding anniversary, as I'm eating a chicken wing, my 2 front teeth fell out. Yeah, there you go, baby. Jen's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm going to be damn straight up honest here. I didn't know what true love is until that lady walked into my life. Shannon was Shannon. I married her because I got her pregnant. Were we in love at one time? Absolutely.
Right. And
but
you
then
love all your children.
I love my children
And
unconditionally.
you love,
Yeah.
you have love, but to be in
Yeah.
love. And
But it's so
she's your
she's
soulmate.
my best friend. We
Right.
work together. We're in business together. We're always together. Normally she'd be here, but we're running a concierge treatment program literally 8 minutes from here.
Where is she today?
Is that with our client right now?
Oh, okay, because somebody said to me, will she be there today? I said,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. But I'll get around for you if you'd like.
But I said that Tim says that they're inseparable.
It's unbelievable.
But I'd like to have her. I'd like to hear her story.
She'd be phenomenal. Oh, she'll rock your world. She did a TED Talk. I introduced her to my buddy Arthur, and she did a TED Talk on beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And her talk was basically showing pictures of her being a and she was a legit supermodel. None of
Legit.
this bullshit
No,
Instagram.
really.
I mean, she was a supermodel. Cindy Crawford, all
Oh, yeah,
them.
yeah.
But it was all these pictures of her from 13, 14, 15. Oh, yeah, I was raped and molested on set, this one. This one, my
God.
dad died and I had to do the photo. But it's, smile for the camera. Everybody's
Right.
got to smile.
Right.
One of the most powerful TED Talks I've ever heard. But she's a force to be reckoned with. Next week, she'll have 19 years sober, and I just couldn't imagine my life without her.
I'll tell you a very small story. So, I got indicted in 2009.
What were you charged with?
Securities fraud. Initially, it was just securities fraud and conspiracy to commit securities fraud. And then at some point from the time that I got charged to the time I started going through my what they call motion practice, I had a lot of money. I had a big-time lawyer, other connections, etc.
Sure.
And I hadn't really committed a crime. The Supreme Court came out with this big ruling on a case called Morrison, United States versus Morrison. And the laws regarding securities, the way they're applied extraterritorial, I mean outside of the United States, were clarified for the first time ever by the Supreme Court. And so I was charged by a few prosecutors in New York, by the United States government, alleging that I committed securities fraud while I was in England on the London Stock Exchange with no Americans.
What?
And so in their motions, the Southern District of New York wrote that we are the police of the world. It's our job to police the world.
Unbelievable.
So to this day, people say to me, what were you convicted of? Why'd you go to jail? They said, well, I manipulated the London Stock Exchange while I was in London with all foreigners, no Americans. Front page of the New York Times said that I will, when my appeal, it will be all thrown out because I didn't commit any crime.
In the U.S.
Not only in the U.S., but with no. So like if an American ship is attacked and taken over, we have certain laws that apply to the rest of the world, like piracy laws,
Maritime laws,
law.
totally different.
You're familiar with that,
Absolutely,
correct.
absolutely.
And then we have anti-terrorism laws.
Sure.
So they blow up, let's say, an American installation or an embassy in Germany. Okay, well, they violated an American law. But when Congress made the securities laws, it was it's expected that they just govern the securities and the exchanges in America. Our Congress does not pass laws until the Germans how they have to conduct this, or the British or the French or anybody else. So when this law was passed by the Supreme Court, clarifying everything I'd been charged with, everybody anticipated my case would be thrown out, and it should have been thrown out. And they threw out over 100 cases federally. Wow. But they kept 2.
You were one of them.
I was one of them. And I think what they do is, the trick is in the law, it's so shady, and it's our government, and you see lawfare with Trump, how they manipulate bullshit. They just kept the case because they want to try and establish some precedent that maybe they can use sometime down the road so that they can actually do something, accomplish something, even though it's not lawful. Mm-hmm. And that's how some of the not all, but some of the prosecutors, some of the FBI officials operate in this country. They're criminal.
Sure.
They commit crime.
Absolutely.
And so once the Supreme Court ruled on the Morrison case, the Southern District of New York filed a superseding indictment, realizing that the securities violation has got to be thrown out. The conspiracy to commit securities fraud is going to be, because there was no securities fraud in America.
Right.
And they charged me with their go-tos, which are wire fraud and mail fraud. All they got to do is show that you did an email.
Well, that's how they got my buddy Roger Nelson.
When they don't have a case, that's what they use, just so you guys know.
Yeah, they got him
I
under
want
RICO.
you all to hear this. And RICO is worse. They threatened me with RICO. They threatened me with money. I didn't do any of these things.
Right.
And their whole case was that I manipulated the London Stock Exchange. So the London Stock Exchange came to my trial. And we flat out asked him, did Mr. Mandell commit a crime? Did he commit a violation? My job in London, because I owned a London firm, I was a member of the London Stock, I owned a bank, was to support my security. Mm-hmm. I was a market maker, I was an investment bank, and I was a stockbroker in London. Now, I owned a company that did that. I wasn't doing anything there day to day, not even in America.
Right.
But nobody else got indicted, no board members, none of my CEO. So they really just at some point, I think, wanted me to come in and make a deal.
Sure.
But when you make a deal, I probably would have had 0 prison time. I would have probably had to write a check, maybe $10 million. And I would have just probably had some sort of probation or restriction. I would have had to give up some names and this and that. They wanted to send it. Congress, all these people worked for me. And, I spoke to my wife about it. She says, let me ask you a question. You're going to go in front of a courtroom. It's going to be filled with reporters. I was in I was in a newspaper every day. My picture was a big trial of the century. I'm the finale of season 9 on American Greed, the hit show.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm the finale called The Sky's the Limit. You watch it, you say, what did he do wrong? And the London Stock Exchange said he didn't do anything wrong because I did my job over there. Just like an underwriter in America manipulates the market.
How did you keep your head straight going into prison knowing you really...
I never believed I was really going to go because I didn't do anything wrong. I was naive enough.
Wow.
I believe in God. I'm in sobriety. I'm in recovery. I believe that if I didn't do wrong, God knows, because there's a million things written about me. I had 10,000 pages in Google, and the government, people in the government, had used a suppression. You know how they suppressed. If you Google me today and you try and find out something that I accomplished, something good, it's buried. Buried deep. I mean, people have done this with AI and all that.
Oh, yeah.
My name comes up over 100,000 times online. Over 100,000 times.
Wow.
But I'm in every country, in every language. But when you want to find something good, you got to dig, and then you have to go through 5 or 6 things that the government said. The prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, who, by the way, have all resigned because Trump's coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, enough of this nonsense, this bullshit. And so I understand lawfare long before anybody. But I have a strong belief in the Creator. I choose to call God.
Amen.
My higher power.
Yep.
And I did a lot of things in prison. I helped a lot of people.
I bet you did.
I did a lot of things. I chaired AA meetings in every
Yep.
place. I taught classes, and there are some guys that I know well that say that this is why you went to prison, because of what I'm doing now.
To be the exact, so
Sort of like your story. Why
Yeah.
did you lose a son? Why did these things happen? I mean, because you have a mission. God has put something.
Well, that's
and
what-
he's, and you're capable. So a lot of men in your shoes would have folded, cracked, killed themselves, disappeared, got small.
went to get high, and the funny thing, drinking and drugs that's done. That's never an option. But I could do
For today.
Yeah,
today.
but I just
We're not going to do heroin today.
That's it now.
Tomorrow, who knows what's
I
going to
wouldn't
happen?
touch that stuff now. This fentanyl, I see what it does.
I
and
did fentanyl.
Man, I think at the end, because I know I remember calling my dealer once. I'm like, dude, this shit I'm drawing up is purple. He's like, yeah, well, there might be fentanyl in there. What's that? Okay, it's good. Give me
I
the purple.
enjoyed it.
People don't
But
understand.
it'll kill you. It'll kill you. And all drugs will kill you.
Totally. Well, I think I shared this with you on the phone. 2 weeks after Nick died, Shannon and his mom had lunch at Potbelly's, downtown Naperville. And she said, Tim, I want to share something with you. She said, I've really been thinking about everything. And she said, I truly believe God put Nick and I in your life for a reason. And had you go through your struggles, had Nick go through his, for Nick to pass on to set the stage for what you're going to do next. She said, your 28, 30 years of active addiction were your training ground. Now go help people and don't ever look back. And I promised her I wouldn't. That's
I love
my
that.
deal.
And I'll tell you something else. So, I've been in and about the program for 35 years,
Mm-hmm.
literally. And you meet thousands of people.
Oh, yeah.
Like you, I speak, and I'm a trained speaker. I'm a sales guy. I had a lot of media training because I went public, and that was part of the deal that I talked to. I was on CNBC and CNN and BBC and all these different things. And I trained for it.
Did you ever do work with Calamos Investments?
I can't say
Naperville,
that.
Illinois, John Calamos.
Probably
Yeah.
not. Illinois didn't want to register me after I got sober. I couldn't get Illinois. That was one of my states I could never get. But I would just say like this: speaking to you and meeting you, spending this time, which I've done with many people, obviously, that are afflicted with the disease of addiction, alcoholism, etc. There's so many. You hear a lot of stories, and people express a lot of pain. I'll never forget, I made Stephanie go with me to a meeting once because she used to say, what goes on over there in the Boca Pines Club? And halfway through a qualification, which wasn't even really that severe as we would say, she got up, she was crying, gasping, and she had to run out of the room. And like 4 or 5 of the women chased her out.
Sure.
Because she's a real person, and she could handle the pain. She's like an empath, and it was just too much. She goes, "How do you deal with this?" And I'm sitting. I was actually enjoying the story. I hate to say it, and she's like, I have a panic attack in the parking lot, and I realized just how different we see and experience the world, and but when I spoke to you and I heard your story. And I heard about the passing of your son and about his friend. You reached a level in my heart, in my soul, that others don't reach.
Thank you.
The level of, and it's just not the pain that happened to you. It's the power in your expression. You're a salesman. And there's no agenda.
None.
This is the truth. And I believe, and I think I learned this through the meetings and selling. It's helped me in selling, my experience in the rooms.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
That something happens in the human brain when it experiences the truth. We're fed so much bullshit morning, noon, and night. And now, as I'm building this media company, raw media, because you're raw. When you talk, it gets raw. I mean, you're funny, you're entertaining, you're charming, you're intelligent, all these things. But there's an authentic. And that's the word to everybody today. Why are people not watching TV? Why are people...
It's not authentic.
Why do they go to cable? Why do they go to stream? But why are they going now to the podcast world? Trump went to Joe Rogan. He didn't go to... Because people want authentic. You can say a lot of things about Donald Trump.
I
He's-
respect Trump
but
more than
you
any.
say a lot of things, and a lot of them are brought upon himself, and he's got these quirky things in his personality.
Sure.
But he is authentic Trump.
Yeah,
he
well-
ain't going to change for you.
Call me Trump. I'll come be your drug czar.
He's not gonna change his ways.
No.
For anybody.
Nope, I won't either.
And I'm the same way. I'm authentic as fuck. This podcast is real as
Right.
fuck. And I'm not supposed to talk like that, but who cares? That's what people want, and something in the brain clicks when they hear real.
I'll tell you how real I am. Jenny and I are driving through Lake Worth the other day down Main Street, and there's a semi to the left, and I'm coming right up, and some jerk pulls out in front of me to get in, and I honk my horn, and he jams on his brakes. So, you know me, I'm following him. He pulls up the light, and I get out of the car, and he's mother effing me, and he goes, "You don't have any teeth." And I said, "You're absolutely right. Have a great day." And I went back in the car, and I looked at Jen. I said, "That guy just made me laugh so much." What'd he say? So he said, "I don't have any teeth," and I don't. I go, I can't hit a guy and get mad at him for that. But
It makes you look like a tough guy.
yeah, it's
And you are a tough guy, but in ways that people can't even imagine.
I'm the guy that will, and people don't realize, I walk into the house, I'm walking out with them. My wife and I do interventions and this, but I took one of my buddies from 12-step rooms in Illinois. He's an Uber driver. Say, "Hey, let's go do this intervention. You can drive. I'll give you $500. We get back. He said, "I will never do that again." He said, "Dude, that guy wanted to pull out a gun and shoot you." I said, "And did he do it?" "Well, he pulled the gun out." He said, "He didn't shoot me. He went to rehab, didn't he?" He goes, "Well, yeah, but I'd never do what you do." When I go to help someone, I'm helping them and I'm getting them and I'm walking out. And people don't know, an interventionist, no, you can't. Go walk into a multi-billionaire's home that has disposable income that's been smoking meth for a week and tell me you're going to get
That's
him to
exactly
rehab.
right.
So that could take me 3 to 4 days, but I'll get him.
At my trial, a guy named Mike Hummel. Mike, shout out. Sorry about this. I went into a mobile home. It was a little neighborhood with mobile homes. He was smoking crack for like 3 days with some gangster types. I threw him over my shoulder. I was much stronger and bigger
Sure.
than him. I took him outside, threw him into my Mercedes convertible with the top down. And these guys are all coming. One guy had a gun, all these different things. And I took him and I pulled him out. He went to my sentencing. Unbeknownst, I wasn't planned or anything. He wrote letters to the judge, all these different things. I had 250 people write letters. More than 150 of them came from people I had met through sobriety. But they say that's why I didn't get 25 years, because I was convicted of a lot of bullshit. Government wanted 30 years. Judge gave me 100. He goes, the judge says, at my sentencing, "Mr. Mandell has done so much good in his life. Look at all these people. I never seen so much." And but the prosecutor, a real wench, she gets up. "Yeah, but we're here to talk about his crime." There was no crime. It's
Unbelievable.
but that's the way it is. I'm sorry to say, I live in an America that I thought if I really didn't lie, and I've done a lot of wrong in my life.
Sure.
A lot. The bad things I'm not proud of, etc. But what they convicted me of never even happened.
Yeah.
Let alone
Charge me with something I did.
Yeah,
Don't give me some-
yeah. People think I went away because of karma, and I can understand that. But I don't. It's not a. This is your time. Right now.
Business is business.
But being an interventionist
Yeah.
is a tough thing. It's
a
dangerous.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And you have to be a certain type
Yeah.
of a person to have the balls, the cojones, to go into
Yeah.
one of these. Because typically the guy you're trying to grab doesn't want to go anywhere.
God, no.
And
None
he's
of these
surrounded
people
by
do.
his people, and
No one.
Now let's talk about where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Talk to us about some of your goals.
So it's interesting because I'm kind of in a quandrum right now to where Jenny and I ultimately, do we open our own treatment center? Do I do that? Do I do the insurance route? Do I cash pay? Do I do high end? Do I sober living? I want to keep speaking, obviously doing interventions. Jenny and I are going to work on a reality show or two, but I want to be able to keep getting the message out there. I'm a disruptor. I disrupt the system. When I'm at the State of the Union, Congressman Foster's like, "Do you want to go meet Nancy Pelosi?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I could care less about her.
Right.
I want to say, teach me how this operates. I want to learn about Congress, and I don't know shit about it." So we sat there for 2 hours and talked about that. I'd rather learn things, but I want to surround myself, too, with people like you. People out here making a difference. I don't hang around soul suckers. My time is valuable, and I want to spend it with people I love and care about or people I can empower. But I want to help more people. I want to be helping our veterans. Me and my buddy Rich had built a really high-end, not high-end wealthy, but one of the top first responder programs in the country for our veterans, for our police, for our cops.
I love it.
And we shit on them. My brother-in-law is ran the nuke that Osama bin Laden was thrown off of, and the trauma he's experienced, the mental health issues he's went through, horrific. And our government sucks.
So, I saw a news flash today. I'm like a news junkie, and I subscribe to everything. Mayor Eric Adams from New York City,
Sure,
who helped destroy New York, but now he was indicted, probably wrongfully set up because politically it was he went against the Democrats.
Sure,
and he just committed. I think several $100 million, like $120 million, a real number, to creating centers so the mentally ill, the mentally unfit have somewhere to go. Instead of sticking them in jail.
Thank you.
Sticking them in prison, letting them live on the streets, hurting people, pushing people on, lighting people on fire.
Thank you.
What I learned when I was inside from a CO who was very, very, was a union rep, very well versed in things, very communicative in a decent way, told me that in the 80s, after Reagan was elected, the insurance lobby pressured Reagan, and they did away with all these mental hospitals.
All gone.
And they turned them into federal prisons. And so we say there's 122 federal prison mental hospitals. They're really just federal prisons. Where I was.
Sure.
I was with a lot of people that had no business being in prison or jail.
I believe it.
They need help.
Yes.
They need help. They don't need to be tortured.
Cook County Jail is the largest mental health facility in the country. There's more mentally ill people there. And thank God, I'm good at what I do. When I was in Sheridan Prison, Osborne was the warden. I left. They caught wind of me. I get a call from Warden Gomez. Tim, I'm the new warden. Get up here and meet me. I want you speaking.
Oh, my goodness.
And I spoke in there. He's now the undersheriff in Cook County. And, man, this guy, I call him up right now and say, hey, Ross and I want to come in tomorrow and speak to 500 inmates. What time are you going to be here? That's right. I like to go back into the prisons, but I want to help people come back out and truly build lives. I like to go help that homeless person. You want to see what I can do with someone? Let's video this guy now. Let's see in a year the life he's living. And I'll teach him how to do it. So my life's all about giving back. Giving back to people struggling with mental health, substance abuse, addiction, gambling, sex. I don't care.
Helping.
I just want to help.
I just want to say what a privilege it's been here. And I just want to tell you, when I was inside, I heard the Cook County system is the worst in America. Absolutely hands down the worst.
I'll take prison over Cook County Jail any day of the week.
And you're a veteran in an odd sense, right?
Absolutely.
You're an alumni, as they say. Anything else we missed? Because we've got so much.
When do you want to come back for another 24?
I want you back. I want Jennifer in that chair.
Let's get Jen in.
And maybe me, you, and Jen, the three of us. But I'd like to get her story because I can imagine how crazy.
I mean, you got to understand it. 13 years old, she gets discovered. 3 weeks later, she's filming with Chet Baker, one of the top jazz musicians, a documentary on his life.
Wow.
And got to know Chet, and right when it was released, Chet committed suicide. She's got some stories. I mean, she grew up with Cameron. Cameron was her best friend, and just all the things they did. But then people go different ways, and, Jen was a bad apple in the addiction world, and some of the roles she screwed up and walked away from, your head would spin. But one thing the greatest thing about when I met Jen was, when I meet her and we're talking, she goes, can you come to California? I said, for what? Well, I need you to meet this friend of mine, Boston George Young. Well, George had got out of prison finally, and the people had reached out because they knew Jen was sober and said, George is drinking a lot. So she went down to meet him. I fly out there. We go spend a weekend with George. I've been around some famous people. We take George out to dinner at the nicest steakhouse in San Diego with his buddy. I've never seen anything like it. The waiters are coming up, literally bowing to him. One of the waiters says, George, I was trying to catch you. I was in the federal prison. I ran the Pizzagate thing in New York where they were running the heroin and stuff. And George goes, who killed so-and-so? And the guy's like, this guy did. And George is like, oh, my God, I thought so-and-so. But it was insane. But when we're going to leave,
There was a line of people, 300 long, that came from blocks to meet George and take. Most fascinating guy, but we could talk George stories about who did he work for? He worked for the CIA. He was bringing in 10,000 tons of coke a week. And he said, Tim, we'd put it on oil rigs in Venezuela and the U.S. Coast Guard would pick it up.
I bet.
Yeah.
Listen,
He worked under Bush, and it was crazy.
these are
But
some real stuff. But I
most
wanna tell you,
fascinating man I've ever met.
when I was going through my stuff, the FBI raid, the indictment in 09, trial in 11, sentencing in 12, the appeal, I was out for another 3 years. Stephanie, at some point, reached out to Jennifer.
Really?
She did.
I'll be damned.
She reached out to Jennifer, and she met her through social media. She had seen her on Dr. Drew, Sober, all these
I'll be
different things. And Stephanie asked for help. She doesn't do drugs or anything. She doesn't. Maybe she took some Xanax for a period of time because
Right.
who could sleep when we were going through this. But she's she's a half a drink, 2 sips. Doesn't like alcohol. Doesn't like drugs.
As soon as I get these in, we're all going out to dinner.
Would definitely take you up. But she said to me, Jennifer Jimenez helped her. So I have this sort of special feeling. When you're away, you know this. You were away. I hate to say it, 13 months. I can do that on my head.
2 years total altogether.
Right. I
Yeah,
do that.
no.
I was 112 months.
Yeah, fuck all that.
Prisons, camps, detention centers, county jail, sleeping on the floor. I mean, you wouldn't believe. But and I'm no youngster, bro.
No,
That prison is for young guys.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell?
I ain't going back doing that.
Exactly.
How
But
old were you when you went in?
I was 57.
Jeez, I'm 56 right now. So.
Well, stay clean.
Yeah, I'm not going
you
back.
You know what happens if you
Yeah,
don't,
yeah.
if you go out, right? You'll be.
Oh, yeah.
But to make a long story short, she helped Stephanie, and anybody that helped my family, anybody that helped me, anybody that sent a book, a check, wrote me a letter,
Yep.
did an email, you'd never forget.
Never.
And she's one of the only people that I'm aware of that was a help to my family that I never had a chance to meet and say thank you and all this.
Oh,
and that.
you'll be able
And
to.
Isn't that funny how it works?
You can't make this stuff
It's
up.
just so crazy how this works.
Nothing, absolutely nothing
And
happens.
we're building
in
a
God's
media
world,
company which is about raw media. I was shocked we could get the name. Authentic, real people, and serious people are coming. I mean, people I think can feel it. And I have a name, obviously.
Absolutely.
And,
I mean, when my buddy, I'll send you the show you text. Bob reads my gratitude list. He's like, hold on, you're doing Ross Mandell's podcast? He is the best. I said, Bob, I'll talk about you. Well, Bob Applequist, this is for you. Ross Mandell sitting right across
Bobby,
from me.
what's shaking, bro? I appreciate the love and support, man.
Gotta love it.
So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Now we can move the microphones.
Now we can move the
You're
mics.
amazing, bro.
I appreciate it, brother.
I really
Thank you.
It's going to take me a minute to get over you.
Well, the thing is now I've got another true friend in my life.
Yes,
'Cause
you
that's
do.
the way we don't only have a bomb through recovery, we have a bomb through, R68915, my prison number, and yours that are both retired now. And
62490-054.
this
All
is
right,
just
man.
the beginning. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for tuning in. Love you guys.
Thank you.
What a treat this is. Share it with your friends.